The story begins 300 years ago, when something appeared in the sky. Countless secret kingdoms and dungeons rose from the earth, followed by innumerable powerful monsters, nearly leading to the extinction of humanity. But after the initial crisis, the Awakened emerged. The Awakened, who possessed powerful abilities, defeated the monsters, and saved the world from destruction. To prevent the monsters, they continued to explore the secret realms to gather wealth and materials. The countries began to value the Awakened, and so everyone can awaken at the age of 18. In the kingdom, it is announced, Wang Wei, 3rd year class 2, failed to awaken, no class. Li, 3rd year class 2, successful awakening, combat class, swordsman. Wang, 3rd year, class 2, successful awakening, creation class, artisan. The classes of the Awakened are divided into 3 categories: combat, support, and creation. The combat class is the most practical and also the most coveted. In contrast, the creation class, which cannot be used in battle, is considered the weakest and is despised by everyone. In the kingdom, a boy announces that he has awakened as a magical swordsman, a combat class, while another cries for having awakened in the support class. After a successful awakening, the class ranks are divided into 4 categories: common, rare, secret, and divine. People observe and point to Jiang Chen, the best student, impressed by him. Among them, they comment that the divine rank is the rarest and hardly seen in centuries. The people observing him wonder what kind of class he awakened to, if it's divine rank, and remark that it's been years since the city has had anyone with that rank. They say that when a divine rank class appears, a strange phenomenon happens in the sky and on the earth. Jian feels relieved, saying it seems his awakening was a success. He walks, and Director Wang comments that Jian is an incredible child, the true pillar of the school. He knew Jian would awaken with a combat class, but didn't expect it to be divine rank. He asks what class Jian has. Jian, confused, replies that he didn't awaken to a combat class. The director, surprised, asks if it's a support class. Jian responds that he awakened to the creation class. Spiritual master, divine rank, with the talent to accelerate the growth of plants and small animals. The director, indignant, says that this is terrible because, even though it's divine rank, a creation class without combat abilities is useless. The staff member next to him tries to reassure him, saying not to be discouraged, because although Jian can't fight, at least he will be safe. Spiritual masters are quite popular in the research field, and besides, he is of divine rank. However, the promised recommendation for combat will no longer be possible. He suggests that if Jian chooses the research field, a teacher could offer a recommendation letter. Jian interrupts, thanking him, and says he will consider it. He mentions that he still has some things to do, and if there's nothing else to discuss, he will leave. The people who overheard the conversation laugh, saying that life is full of surprises. Everyone thought the top student would awaken to a combat class, but now he would be useless, even if he came first in every subject. One of them comments that it's a big fake news, as they thought Jian had a divine combat class, but it was just a creation class. They continue saying it was fun to watch because Jian had lived comfortably since entering the school, but now they want to see if he will endure. They add that even if he tries his best every day, he will still be in the creation class. They also comment that Lin, the school beauty, who always came second, awakened with a secret rank combat class. Jiang, thinking to himself, remembers that they used to call him Brother Jiang and praised him until recently. Now, after awakening in the creation class, everything has changed drastically. He reflects that, as expected in this world, only strength matters and wonders what the problem is with being in the creation class. He opens the system notification, which informs him that the awakening is complete, and the awakened class is spiritual master, divine rank. The system also indicates that the conditions to unlock the calamity insect system have been met, unlocking the initial mother insect, and that Jiang must allow the system to summon the mother insect. Jiang observes the notification and comments that it aligns perfectly with his system. He introduces himself, saying that his name is Jiang Chen, and that he was reincarnated into this world of the awakened after dying. After the end of the Dark Era, the world became filled with dungeons and monsters. From that moment on, humanity began to respect only the strong. Reincarnated as an orphan, Jiang had to strive to survive in this world before turning 18, thinking he would have to depend solely on himself. However, unexpectedly he awakened this system a month ago. He comments that the insect race is extremely powerful, having caused significant damage to humanity during the Dark Era. He heard that the last time a calamity insect appeared, 9 of the 12 human kings were sacrificed to seal it. In this world, strength is everything, and he has nothing to fear as long as he becomes powerful. He says it doesn't matter if that power comes from the insect race. Jiang then finds himself in the middle of an ocean and comments that it seems like he's in the sea of consciousness. He is surprised to see a tree and wonders if it is part of his talent, as he didn't expect something like this. Upon opening another notification, he discovers that his class talent requires sacrifices to evolve and can be used once every 10 days. He also learns that by accelerating the growth of fruits, there is a chance to randomly drop a special fruit. Additionally, the talent can accelerate the growth of creatures by 10% with an 8-hour cooldown. He observes and affirms that this is a good system, especially since it took the initiative to analyze his class talent. Although the talents don't seem to include combat abilities, they can be used within the insect system. The system completes the analysis and asks if he wishes to summon the mother insect now. Jiang decides to invoke the summon. During the summoning, a wind and purple light appear, and Jiang comments on the powerful aura he feels. A system notification informs him that the summoning was successful and that he has summoned the mother insect of the 9 miasma wings, a calamity rank insect. As the mother insect materializes before him, another notification reveals that, coming from the abyss, this creature is the Lord of Death, responsible for a natural calamity that caused catastrophic destruction in the world before disappearing during the Third Era. The system indicates that the devouring value of the mother insect is 0% and its hunger is 100% full, asking Jiang to complete the devouring and allow reproduction to occur as soon as possible to unlock new abilities. Jiang observes the mother insect and wonders why it is so large. The mother insect responds, saying that Little 9 likes the master and is hungry, wanting to eat evil monsters. A new notification informs that the talent growth rate has increased by 10%, allowing Jiang to sacrifice targets to evolve, and that the first evolution will not consume sacrifices. Surprised, Jiang asks if there will really be no sacrifice consumption, and with excitement, he orders the evolution to begin. He reflects that the mother insect needs to feed to evolve, and that it will be difficult to deal with her. Emitting green lights, he confirms that it is the aura, and soon after, a woman dressed in purple with purple lights surrounding her appears. Another notification congratulates Jiang, informing him that the 9 miasma wings has completed its transition, evolved, and gained new abilities. The notifications indicate that feeding distributes 10 times the user's experience, that the venomous mist has been enhanced to corrode everything, and that all user attributes increase by 20% when united. Jiang observes the woman and is taken aback. The mother insect comments that it has evolved, to which Jiang responds that, in fact, it has evolved into a human form. Additional notifications arrive, indicating that once the devouring value reaches its maximum capacity, Jiang will be able to create offspring. The system also activates accelerated growth. The mother insect says she is hungry and wants meat and blood. Jiang observes the notification and concludes that the spiritual master talent can accelerate the devouring growth of the mother insect, and that the experience gained from feeding her can speed up his own upgrades. Additionally, his attributes increase by 20%. Satisfied, he comments that his class is perfect for this system and asks, "Who needs a combat class now?" He thinks that as long as he keeps killing monsters and devouring them quickly, he will soon have an army of insects. However, when he remembers what the system mentioned about insects, abysses, and catastrophic destruction, combined with the incomplete information he has, he concludes that this is a power that must not be revealed to anyone. If discovered, it could mean his death. Therefore, he decides to use his identity as a creation class and the venomous mist ability of the mother insect to devour monsters and increase his strength. Even so, hiding is not part of his style. His goal is to grow strong enough to show his abilities to the world. Soon after, he appears with the insect in the middle of a sea. The water begins to stir, and Jiang, confused, asks what is happening. The mother insect says she senses a nearby threat. When he looks behind him, he sees a man, who mentions that he noticed the class awakening phenomenon that the entire city saw recently, and asks if Jiang is the one responsible. Jiang thinks that this man must be at least a master level or higher, and wonders why he is looking for him. Those observing comment that the man has a very strong aura, which can be felt even from a distance, and they speculate on what his awakened level might be. Some wonder if he is here to fight Jiang. Facing the man, Jiang thinks it's strange because from the start, he's been feeling a constant pressure from him. Still silent, Jiang concludes that the man seems to be testing his abilities. The mother insect says that the stranger is a threat to Jiang but looks very tasty, and asks if she can devour him. Jiang, worried, thinks that this is not good at all. Notifications pop up, informing him that the mother insect perceives the target as a threat to the user, and that he could provide a high devouring value. Jiang realizes that Little 9 is about to attack, while a strong wind begins to blow. He reflects that whenever the devouring value is low, the mother insect becomes even more aggressive, and he needs to find a monster quickly to calm her down. Meanwhile, the man thinks that Jiang was trying to test his strength with the pressure, but has ended up angering the mother insect. Unfortunately, he comments that he can satisfy that need for now. Another notification appears, stating that the mother insect has been temporarily suppressed, and that the devouring value is too low, asking Jiang to start devouring and breeding the mother insect as soon as possible. The man comments that it is impressive that Jiang, despite having completed his awakening only recently, is already able to withstand his pressure and even counterattack. He remarks that Jiang is definitely worthy of a divine rank, with an unlimited future ahead. Jiang, flattered, thanks him and asks who he is. The man responds that he is Gang, the leader of the Night Watch, extending his hand and saying that he won't beat around the bush. He admires Jiang's strength and wants to know if he would consider joining their organization. Jiang, thoughtful, reflects that the Night Watch is a specialized organization created by the great Xiao to combat demons and monster waves. Whenever there is a wave of monsters, a new secret realm, or a dungeon, the Night Watch is the first to investigate or eliminate the threat. However, since they are constantly on the front lines, the mortality rate is extremely high, which causes many people to avoid joining them. But for Jiang, the situation is different. He concludes that the mother insect needs to constantly devour monsters to accumulate devouring value and be able to breed her offspring. Moreover, he will have to face large monsters, and when the devouring value reaches its maximum, the mother insect will begin to reproduce. Jiang reflects that this will likely cause a huge commotion. An open field would be an ideal location for breeding, and by joining the Night Watch, Jiang could easily handle the risks while devouring and breeding. Gang interrupts his thoughts, saying that Jiang has probably already heard rumors about the Night Watch, but that most of them are outdated. He promises that if Jiang is willing to join, he will receive proper training, and as someone of divine rank, he will have access to exceptional resources. Jiang takes Gang's hand and says he doesn't need to say anything more because, to restore the glory of the Night Watch, their generation must not neglect its duties. He states that he is willing to join the Night Watch. Gang is surprised, while Jiang thinks that the insect offspring will depend on them. Gang asks if Jiang is sure, and Jiang responds that he's not joking, affirming that he now has a commitment. The mother insect, on the other hand, complains that she doesn't like this and says she's hungry, wanting to devour Gang. Jiang ignores her, walks away, and says that in 3 days, he will go to the Night Watch headquarters and will see Gang there. Gang comments that he thought it would be more complicated and didn't expect it to be so easy, but then asks what class Jiang has, as he forgot to ask earlier. At that moment, an old man approaches and says, "Well, if it isn't the 8th elder from the Martial Arts Academy, here to recruit people too?" He laughs and asks where the boy with the divine rank creation class is. Gang, confused, asks what he means by creation class. The old man responds incredulously, asking if Gang really plans to let an awakened person with a divine rank creation class join the Night Watch just to die. Gang asks him to wait a moment and questions if the boy he was talking to earlier is the one with that class. He continues, "Was it him who caused that phenomenon in the city recently?" The old man confirms with a nod. Elsewhere, a girl tells her uncle to speak more quietly, saying he could get into trouble if he keeps talking like that. The uncle laughs and tells the girl to watch her sharp tongue. Jiang intervenes, telling the uncle that it's fine, as there's no shame in it. The uncle agrees and says that although a creation class isn't a combat class, he's heard that companies that cultivate spiritual plants really need that kind of class. He adds that if Jiang's parents were still alive, they would be very proud of him. Jiang thanks him, saying he will never forget the help he received from everyone in the building over the years. The uncle responds, "Very well, don't worry about the details. You came at just the right time." He explains that they are going to a beginner-level secret realm to get some equipment and invites Jiang to join them and level up together. Jiang agrees and thanks them. Soon after, a new system notification pops up, informing Jiang that he has formed a party. Entering the secret realm, he looks around and asks if this is what a secret realm looks like. The system confirms that synchronization is complete and reveals that the secret realm is rank C. The Temple of the Undead has been opened. The notification informs them that the secret realm guarantees 100% item and equipment drops, and experience points will be calculated upon completion. Leaving voluntarily midway will forfeit the experience and equipment. The uncle observes and comments that the enemies are undead soldiers, asking why the system put them in a dungeon of this rank. Jiang thinks that this doesn't seem like an easy secret realm to clear. The girl comments that it must be because Jiang is of divine rank, and the system balanced the difficulty by putting them in a higher-level secret realm. The uncle replies that even though Jiang is a creation class, it doesn't matter. Another girl tries to speak, but is interrupted by the uncle, who says it's not a problem. He points out that it's not every day they get the chance to explore secret realms of this level, and asks how they'll know if they don't try. With optimism, he says that perhaps they'll get lucky this time, and get some good equipment drops thanks to Jiang. The undead soldiers begin to move, and the uncle, sword in hand, tells Jiang to stay behind, explaining that these soldiers are more dangerous than the standard C-rank monsters. He assures them that they will head toward the core of the dungeon first. Attacking a soldier, he orders Xiaoxi to quickly improve her skills. Xiaoxi responds, "Understood," and clasps her hands, forming a circle of blue light. The uncle's eyes begin to emit white light. Observing this, Jiang comments that he needs to get stronger quickly, and that, as soon as he has the money, he will properly thank everyone. The mother insect comments that there are many monsters and blood around, saying she wants to devour them all. Jiang, hearing this, affirms that it seems Little Nine has already noticed the monsters and concludes that it's a good opportunity to test his abilities. He opens his hand, using the venomous mist, level 1 ability corrosion, and tells Little Nine she can go, as those monsters are all hers. She thanks him and moves forward. Jiang watches and reflects that the bodies of the monsters were instantly corroded. He thinks the venomous mist is extremely powerful, but since the monsters' levels are very low, the growth rate increased only slightly. He concludes that they will need to devour more monsters. Observing his companions, he realizes that Uncle Wang and the others are truly longtime partners, as they've already advanced quite a bit in the dungeon in a short time. However, since Venomous Mist is an area of effect skill that cannot be controlled, he decides that it might be better to avoid using it near them to prevent accidentally harming them. So he resolves to stay behind, dealing with the monster bodies and waiting for the right moment to act. Little Nine interrupts his thoughts, saying she senses something. Jiang, confused, asks what it is, and she responds that there is fresh meat and blood nearby. He approaches and encounters shadow stalkers, level 10 monsters. Jiang reflects that these stalkers seem to be designated to hunt the weaker ones who fall behind. Noticing that their names are highlighted in red, he understands that their level is much higher than his. However, in terms of attributes, thanks to the united skill, Jiang realizes he has the upper hand. Looking at the data from his first awakening, he wonders why he shouldn't test his abilities on these monsters, and asks Little Nine to transform into mist and follow him. She agrees promptly. The monsters move toward them, and Jiang says they can come. With Little Nine in his hand, he touches the monsters, corroding their bones and quickly defeating them. A system notification appears, indicating that he gained more devour value. He thinks these monsters really don't stand a chance against him, and that the devour value increased rapidly this way. Little Nine comments that more food has appeared. Looking to the side, Jiang notices more monsters and reflects on the surprising number of creatures hidden in the dungeon. Worried about Uncle Wang and the others, he decides he needs to finish this quickly and asks Little Nine if she can handle the new monsters. She responds confidently, saying that they are all her prey and asking to leave it to her. Elsewhere, Wang and Xiaomi are facing multiple monsters. Xiaomi asks if Wang is hurt, and he replies that, as a combat class, that little scratch is nothing. With his face covered in blood, he comments that the more monsters they fight, the more keep appearing, and they can't continue like this. He then tells Xiaomi to go find Jiang and leave with him. Xiaomi, upset, hesitates, but before she can respond, a monster approaches to attack Wang. At that moment, Little Nine appears and defeats the monster. Jiang appears right after and asks if everyone is okay. Wang, impressed, questions how Jiang, being from a creation class, was able to do that. Jiang replies that he still has one more use of his secret venomous mist ability, and, seeing Wang's condition, asks his sisters to take him out of there while he deals with the monsters. Wang retorts that, even though Jiang is of divine rank, it's still too dangerous for him. Xiaomi agrees, saying it would be better to return together. Jiang, however, assures them he will be fine. A notification pops up, informing that the required number of people has been reached, and that the boss of the secret realm is being summoned. Wang observes the movement and comments hesitantly, while Xiaomi asks to let Jiang handle the situation, stating that he's not reckless and they should trust him. Reluctantly, Wang throws his sword to Jiang, asking him to use it and return it afterward. Jiang catches the sword and reassures his uncle, saying that he'll return it soon. A new notification pops up, informing that he has received the Vanquisher Elemental Sword, which increases strength, speed, and attack speed. Jiang thinks that he'll use the sword to extend the reach of his venomous mist. He and Little Nine begin attacking the monsters, while Jiang recalls that he was the top-ranked swordsman in the entire school. He continues advancing, defeating monsters skillfully, until he encounters another creature approaching. Leaping, he strikes with the sword, but the monster breaks the weapon in half. Jiang, surprised, wonders if that's the boss of the secret realm, as it's stronger than he expected. He worries about how to explain to his uncle that the sword was destroyed. At that moment, the level 15 dead monarch approaches and tries to attack him. Jiang calls for Little Nine, who steps forward and asks if she can kill it. He answers affirmatively, and without hesitation, she attacks the monarch, easily defeating it. Watching the scene, Jiang thinks he didn't expect her to take down the boss so easily, and concludes that they must have completed the secret realm. However, he notices something strange and asks what it is. A core on the monster seems to be absorbing energy from the environment, transforming it into a living tyrant. Now, at level 20, Jiang wonders if the crystal is actually the true body of the monster, and tells Little Nine that she needs to destroy the crystal in its body. The monster attempts to attack her, but Little Nine dodges and counterattacks, though it too is able to dodge. Jiang is impressed, thinking about how such a large body can be so agile. However, he reflects that maybe it's time to use his talent with plants. He thinks the monster is very fast and powerful, but that same uncontrolled speed is its biggest weakness. Jiang notices many roots hidden under the ground and decides to use them at the right moment. Activating his abilities, his hand is covered in root patterns that begin emitting a green light. He uses accelerated growth, cracking the ground, and plants emerge, binding the monster. Jiang then says that it's Little Nine's turn. She responds affirmatively and attacks the tyrant, defeating it. Jiang sighs in relief, thinking that he actually managed to do it. He reflects that by using his abilities appropriately, he can be useful in battles. With accelerated growth on cooldown, he looks at the remaining core and concludes that it must be destroyed. Taking the core in his hand, he crushes it into pieces. Soon, notifications appear, congratulating him for completing the Rank C Secret Realm, Temple of the Undead. The system begins calculating contributions and generates the Secret Realm score. Then, more notifications appear, informing that equipment rewards have been generated. Jiang observes and picks up the Edmu's Quick Dagger, Rank D, thinking that it's a good weapon and that he'll use it to reward his uncle. He notices there are many pieces of equipment available, but upon examining them, he realizes that most of them are made for combat and isn't sure if any would be suitable for a creation class. Even so, he picks up the equipment to analyze their attributes. When he picks up a hammer, he drops it, and it immediately cracks the ground. Jiang thinks the hammer is extremely heavy, but feels an odd sensation. More notifications arrive, indicating that experience is being distributed. He realizes the Secret Realm experience points are being added up. Another notification indicates that the United skill has been activated, boosting all his attributes by 20%. Still holding the hammer, Jiang comments that, thanks to the Mother Insect's skill, he's reached level 6, and that the United effect is excellent, feeling that even his physical combat abilities have improved. Suddenly, a hand touches his arm, calling him Master. Turning, he sees Little Nine asking for permission to eat all the equipment as a reward. Jiang, surprised, responds that she can't eat them because they belong to Uncle Wang, and the rest will be sold. He jokes that if she eats it, she'll end up with a stomachache. Little Nine looks at the corpse of the dead monster and asks if she can devour it. Jiang almost forgets the importance of the devouring value and gives her permission, saying it's all hers. He thinks that, being a boss monster, it's quite large, and Little Nine will likely use her mist to corrode it, which might take some time. Little Nine, excited, says she'll start now. As she opens her mouth, Jiang watches in surprise, thinking that this is how she's going to devour it. As she consumes the monster, a massive wind begins to form. Jiang comments on the loud noise and is thankful that they are in a secret realm, because if they were in the city, they would easily be discovered, even if they tried to hide. The devouring value increases rapidly, and Jiang realizes it's growing much faster than expected, which is to be expected since boss monster meat is of high quality. He concludes that they'll need to devour more bosses in the future. Soon, he hears footsteps and thinks that his uncle and the others must have heard the noise. Notifications appear again, indicating that the current devouring value is 8,876 10,000ths, and Jiang realizes that they are very close to the next goal. He tells Little Nine to quickly return to her other formation. She agrees and comments that the devouring value is almost complete. His uncle approaches and remarks that Jiang really managed to finish the level and even obtained several pieces of equipment. Jiang responds awkwardly that he ended up breaking the sword, but suggests that his uncle used the new sword as a replacement. His uncle takes the sword and says it's excellent, a rare piece of equipment, joking that he might even forget that Jiang ruined the previous one. Laughing, Xiaomi looks at a necklace and comments that it's also a very rare piece of equipment that could be sold for a good amount. Meanwhile, Li asks how he managed to defeat the boss. Jiang replies that his poison is especially effective against monsters like that, while thinking that the secret realm was completed perfectly. However, he reflects that once a secret realm is completed, it cannot be restarted, so in order to gain more devouring value from a new boss, he'll have to go to the desert. Wang comments that it's a shame Jiang is heading to the research field since, even though he hasn't reached level 1 yet, he already defeated a boss. He observes that if Jiang reaches higher levels, he'll be incredibly strong and asks what his plans are now. Jiang replies that he hadn't mentioned it before to avoid worrying them, but reveals that he's preparing to join the Night Watch. His uncle, surprised, asks if he heard correctly. Jiang confirms and explains that he'll leave in 3 days. Before that, he wants to take the time to level up. Xiaomi comments that the Night Watch is very dangerous, but Jiang reassures her that they don't need to worry, as he knows what he's doing. He jokes that, instead of worrying about him, they should worry about the monsters. On the train, the system announces the arrival near the desert and informs that those who wish to disembark should do so now. Jiang gets off and feels relieved to have arrived. Observing the bustling location, he comments that there are many people around. While holding a bread in his hand, he thinks that since he awakened the system, his appetite has significantly increased. He also notices that, although unstable, his devouring value grows slightly when he eats. Little Nine, standing next to him, complains that his food has no taste. Jiang replies that it's fine and promises to hunt something better for her to eat. He reflects that he hadn't expected his uncle Wang to give him most of the equipment, along with a storage ring and a map after learning of his journey to the desert. These gifts would be very helpful. With the map in hand, Jiang walks and comments that, according to his uncle, the desert is influenced by the power of the celestial path, which interferes with all electronic devices. He compares the landscape to an apocalypse, observing that monsters constantly migrate their nests. He explains that these maps have a very short usage time, and without updated information, it's difficult to find monster groups, especially a boss's nest. He mentions that monsters like firebirds and thunder rhinos are common and easy to detect when they move. However, areas marked with question marks should be avoided, as they represent dangerous high-risk nests. According to his uncle, the Goblin Dungeon would be more suitable for him because it has a low level, many monsters, and fewer competitors. Jiang decides that he will go to this dungeon and, with the map in hand, believes he will find it quickly. However, he feels a hand on his shoulder and hears a voice telling him to stop. The man complains that he has been calling him for a while and asks why Jiang pretended not to hear him. He also asks if Jiang has seen a blonde girl around. Jiang responds that he hasn't seen anyone like that and suggests the man should be more careful when speaking. The man takes his hand off Jiang's shoulder, complaining of pain, and wonders how this is possible. He realizes he has been poisoned and is confused, as Jiang seems to be below level 10 but managed to harm a level 27 defensive warrior. Jiang, calmly, suggests the man seek a healer immediately because his poison is difficult to cure. He also advises him to treat his brain as well, before walking away. The man, outraged, demands to know how Jiang dares to mess with the Xiao family and says he is not allowed to leave. Jiang, intrigued, repeats, "Xiao family?" and wonders if this has something to do with the battle in the sky. Then, they attack each other and fall to the ground, and Jiang wonders what kind of family the Xiao family is, thinking that, from the man's attitude, it must be something important. Quickly, the man approaches again and tells Jiang to stop running. Jiang then says to Little Nine that there's no reason to hold back. She responds that she understands, while the man, filled with arrogance, tells Jiang to go to hell, using his black aura, saying that he is not afraid of this. At that moment, another young man appears, reprimanding the man for not being discreet and asking what he's doing there. The man tries to apologize, but the young man calls him useless trash and punches him, knocking him to the ground. The young man then tells the man to remember that he is just a dog used by the Xiao family and that he has no right to use their name. On the ground, Zheng answers submissively, calling him young master. Jiang, observing the scene, wonders if this is the master that Zheng serves. He realizes he hadn't sensed the young man's presence before and concludes that he is much more dangerous than the previous warrior. The young master comments that his dog has a habit of biting when he shouldn't, apologizing to Jiang and asking if he would like a reward. Jiang declines, saying he doesn't need it. The young master watches him, saying he is quite interesting, and asks if Jiang is heading to the desert, suggesting that he accompany him. Jiang, however, turns his back and responds that he prefers to go alone, leaving the area. The young master comments again that Jiang is interesting, mentioning that Jiang is a divine-ranked creation class. Jiang, still on the ground, asks what he should do now since he failed his mission. The young master orders him to continue the task and says he has discovered that she left the city and will likely cross the desert to the next inn. He demands that she not reach the inn alive, asking Jiang to gather all the scattered employees and follow him into the desert. Jiang responds that he will fulfill the order. Meanwhile, Jiang continues walking. He reflects that humans have dominated the planet and built many cities. But with the rise of the class system, monster waves, secret realms, and dungeons have invaded their homes. Tremendous power constantly tries to reshape these places, now occupied by professionals seeking power. These places, known as deserts, are battlegrounds against monsters and areas for exploring riches. Jiang thinks he seems to be lost, and that the goblin nest should be in that direction. It's already late at night, and he still hasn't arrived. Although there were many monsters along the way before, now he sees none. Little Nine is on his head, holding a rat in her mouth. While Jiang thinks the devouring value of these monsters is very low, he concludes that if he doesn't find more boss nests, it could take a long time to complete his task and report back to the Night Watch, not to mention the time needed to return. Suddenly, it starts to rain. Jiang notices that the rain feels strange, like a wave of magic, and wonders if he's entered a nest. Excited, he comments that, although it's the wrong nest, at least he's found one. He believes he'll be able to find a monster soon, as it's time to complete the devouring value. Looking up, Jiang spots a monster. Little Nine asks if she should help. He replies that it's unnecessary, as the opponent's level isn't high and it only has a large body. Jiang begins to fight the monster and soon notices others approaching. During the battle, one monster tries to dodge, but Little Nine indicates its position, and Jiang defeats it. He then tells Little Nine to devour the monsters until she can't anymore. She responds eagerly and begins devouring them. Jiang reflects that it's truly better to fight monsters in the desert, as he gains experience immediately after defeating them. With his scanning ability, his experience points rise quickly. He calculates that, if they keep facing monsters on the way back, they could level up at least twice. After defeating all the monsters, Jiang orders Little Nine to devour the remains. She happily complies, saying he's the best. Shortly after, she comments that she senses something delicious nearby. Jiang thinks it must be a boss, as Little Nine is so interested, and asks her to lead the way. She guides him to a woman lying on the ground, her clothes torn. Jiang, confused, asks, "Is this really a monster?" The woman opens her eyes, sits up, and wonders where she is, as she wasn't here before. Jiang approaches and asks if she's awake. She stands up in a panic, steps back and asks who he is, telling him not to come any closer. He responds calmly, explaining that he's an awakened one hunting monsters in the desert and that he won't hurt her. She replies that she remembers now, but accuses Jiang of having ambushed her earlier. He apologizes and says she looked like a monster. She, indignant, asks how he can say such a thing, calling him an idiot and rude, while touching her head and saying that her eyes, nose, and everything else is in place. Jiang thinks she seems fine, even after taking a direct hit from him, and wonders exactly who she is. She comments that she's wasted a lot of time here and needs to leave before they catch up to her. Jiang becomes suspicious, thinking she's being chased, and asks what's going on and why she's in such a hurry. She, flustered, makes up a story about monsters nearby and says that she's not in any condition to fight, so she needs to leave. She suggests that Jiang continue hunting monsters, saying that's all she has to say. Jiang notices that she's a terrible liar and reflects that if it's monsters chasing her, it would be beneficial for him, as he could collect devouring values. However, if it's other awakened ones, things would be trickier, since the desert is a lawless land, full of people who kill and rob. Little Nine warns that something is approaching. Jiang asks if there are many, concluding that they must be monsters, which is great. Looking around, he sees several monsters and comments that it's a lot, realizing that this is what she was fleeing from. He reassures her, saying that she doesn't need to worry, as they're not other awakened ones, and declares that he won't turn down the devouring values rushing toward him. He orders Little Nine to use her poisonous mist. She responds affirmatively, and together they start attacking the monsters. Jiang notices something strange, realizing that these monsters seem faster than the previous ones. One of them attempts a quick attack, but he dodges, thinking it's a surprise attack, and counterattacks, slicing it in half. Another monster strikes him in the stomach, causing a tear, and Jiang concludes that something is wrong. He wonders if the monsters are working in shifts, as they're acting together as if controlled by a boss. Little Nine taps his shoulder and says she thinks she understands them. Jiang, surprised, asks what she means. She replies that these monsters are challenging him, calling them arrogant. Then, she screams, creating a strong wind. Jiang notices that the monsters are in disarray and concludes that it's because they are insects as well. He wonders if spiders are considered insects. Little Nine explains that she cut off the connection between the boss and its minions. Jiang, impressed, hadn't expected her ability to be used like that. He praises Little Nine and declares that it's time to kill the boss. She responds that she understands. As they walk, Jiang tells her to stay close, explaining that without the boss controlling them, the monsters are weak and no longer pose a threat. He decides not to waste any more time since there's only one target left. Jiang slices through the monsters, and when he attacks the last one, he declares that this bastard will be responsible for the greatest devouring value. He defeats the boss and, relieved, says that it's finally over and that it's time to create his offspring. He receives a notification that he has reached level 14 and reflects that as his level increases, so does his power. Jiang estimates that his combat power is now almost equivalent to that of a level 25 combat awakened one. He concludes that these monster groups are no longer a threat, noticing that they are even fleeing. Realizing it's no longer worth fighting, he decides not to pursue them now, as his priority is to complete the devouring value. Jiang tells Little Nine that it's all hers. She thanks him, and the devouring value increases. Jiang continues to think that elite-level monsters are truly different, as they provide a much higher devouring value. He concludes that hunting these monsters is the best way to accelerate the growth of his offspring. Another notification appears, informing him that the devouring value is complete, and asking if he would like to begin breeding his offspring for the first time. He reflects that the value is complete, and at that moment, Little Nine approaches, saying that he can start the breeding process and asking to become stronger under his command. He responds that it's great and authorizes the start of the breeding. A notification arrives, informing him that the breeding of the first generation of offspring has been completed and that his accelerated growth talent has been activated. Jiang is surprised to realize that his talent can also speed up the breeding of his offspring. More notifications appear, congratulating him for acquiring the exclusive ability Nest at its maximum level, and the exclusive ability Domination at level 1. He wonders if these are the new abilities mentioned, and notices that the breeding is speeding up, with only 8 seconds remaining. He reflects that his offspring are almost complete, and wonders if they will be insects. When the breeding is finished, another notification congratulates the user, saying that he can now collect his first batch of insect offspring. Several insects begin to approach, and Jiang finds the result incredible. He observes that the number is considerable, as the first breeding of the insect queen resulted in 2,000 individuals. He wonders how large the number will be in the 3rd and 4th generations and notices that the insects are deeply connected to him. Furthermore, he realizes that their abilities are different from Little Nine's, with several new abilities added. The abilities of the offspring of the 9 miasma wings include Venomous Mist, which turns into a mist that corrodes everything; Camouflage, which allows concealment through the reflection of their wings; Fury, which consumes devouring value continuously to increase speed and strength for a short period; and Self-Destruction, which instantly poisons the insect, causing significant damage. Jiang thinks that the Self-Destruction ability is extremely useful. Suddenly, Little Nine hugs Jiang. He pats her head and comments that she doesn't seem to have undergone any major changes. She explains that the breeding is complete, and holding his arm, says that she wants to rest. Confused, Jiang asks how this will work. Then, the insect queen, 9 miasma wings, returns to the nest. After the mother insect returns to the nest, he thinks that this really is a place capable of accommodating insects. Now, no matter how many insects he has, they can be hidden, and he no longer needs to worry about being discovered. However, the maximum level for the skill seems to be fixed. He wonders if she has already slept, and notes that it seems like she must sleep, even after consuming a large number of insects. He recalls that he acquired a skill called Domination, so he decides to test it. Next, he activates the exclusive Domination skill, emitting a purple light from his eyes and around his body. The insects fixate their gaze on him, and he observes, realizing how the skill works. It's a skill that controls the offspring, and is as effortless as moving an arm. Additionally, the insects can share their vision with him, allowing him to see the world as they do. He observes monsters everywhere and tells the insects they seem excited as well, urging them to follow him to test new abilities. Jiang arrives at a place covered in poison, surrounded by monsters in every direction. He attacks them with the poison and remarks that for the offspring, there's hardly any need for action. The range of the poisonous mist has expanded, and the monsters are devoured faster and more thoroughly. Through the vision shared by the skill, the monsters can no longer hide. The monsters fall to the ground, and he realizes he can quickly generate more offspring. He notes that he still doesn't know how much devour value is needed for the next level, but as he observes, he is surprised. Elsewhere, a voice says they have returned to the older brother. He asks why it took so long and demands an explanation about what is happening at the spider's nest. The younger one responds that someone has cleared the area and that no monsters remain. The older brother, shocked, asks, "What? Are you serious?" The younger confirms it, stating all the monsters were eliminated. The older brother comments that having them all killed is rather shocking and wonders if it was the Night Watch. He notes it isn't their style and speculates that it was likely the work of a hidden family or a powerful group. Frustrated, he complains that the employer only needed a vial of spider venom, but they couldn't retrieve it and might have to steal from fools on the way back. Suddenly, they hear a strange noise, and someone remarks that someone is approaching. Jiang observes and says he's finally found other awakened ones. They ask who is there, and Jiang approaches, assuring them not to worry, as he is just an awakened one seeking evolution and wanting to trade food with them. The older brother, relieved that it's just one person, agrees they can trade, but warns that food isn't cheap in the desert. He asks what Jiang plans to offer in exchange. Jiang replies that he has valuable items and places several dead spiders on the ground, declaring them to be very good and asking if they agree. They are astonished, realizing these are the spiders thought to be extinct. They ask if he killed them all by himself. Jiang responds, saying he knows what they were planning to do and announces that his level has increased to 17. He adds that he is in a foul mood and demands they leave as soon as they take what they need. Frightened, they apologize and flee, while Jiang orders his insects to scour the area. Holding a bowl of soup, he reflects that he feels hungry faster now, which shouldn't surprise him, as it was the same with Little Nine. He hadn't expected raising offspring to have this side effect. A notification arrives, showing his devour value at 2,768 1/millionths. He realizes he must evolve as soon as possible. He had thought the devour value would increase quickly thanks to the offspring, but hadn't expected the requirement to double, which would take an eternity. Now, he thinks that the devour value a boss provides is a bargain. Even if all the public nests available outside the city were cleared, they might not be enough for the next reproduction. However, he has heard that nests and secret realms controlled by the Night Watch are private, and it seems that if he wanted more devour value, he would need to report to them as soon as possible. He wonders if Little Nine is still asleep, and thinks that raising offspring is really exhausting. He notices something strange, observes it, and wonders what it is, thinking it looks like a fight. He sees that there are many people involved and questions what's happening. As he walks, he encounters a girl trying to hide, but part of her body is visible. He wonders if it's the same girl again, and asks if it's her. She falls to the ground, holding her head, and says it hurts, asking if he is the guy from the spider's nest. Sitting on the ground, she pleads with him not to say he saw her and begs for mercy. He wonders why she's appearing again and thinks, "I didn't even notice her. I only realized it when I got close." He questions how she managed it and thinks he now understands. She must be the person those guys were chasing. Looking to the side, he realizes it's too late to escape as they enter through the door, asking if it's him again. They remark that it's a wonder he's camping there alone. He remains silent, and Jiang shouts, asking if he saw the girl running in that direction. He threatens him, demanding an answer or he'll kill him for good. The young master tells Jiang to calm down, walks over, and sits in front of Jiang, noting how quickly Jiang has leveled up for someone of a creation class. He remarks that the day isn't over yet, and Jiang is already at level 16. The young master says he's becoming increasingly interested in him, but has something urgent to deal with first. He then points his sword at Jiang and asks if he saw a dark-haired girl recently. Jiang thinks that his aura is strong, and that he may be at level 30 or higher. Moreover, this guy can accurately determine his level and class. He must have evaluation equipment with him. Jiang responds that he saw someone heading in that direction, but didn't pay much attention, so he's not sure if it's who they're looking for. The young master replies, "Fine," and says he'll believe him for now but advises him to be more honest. He warns that if he finds out Jiang helped her, the Xiao family of the Zhen Empire won't let him off easily. He then walks in the direction Jiang indicated. Jiang watches them leave and thinks, so they're a family from the Zhen Empire. He reflects that the families of the Zhen Empire have a long history, composed of high-ranking officials, and are extremely mysterious. They rarely appear unless there's a major disaster. Some of these powerful families can easily destroy the continent, and their power is greater than he imagined. He laments being noticed by this type of people, thinking, "They're gone, but I can't stay here anymore. It's not safe." The girl comes out of hiding and breathes a sigh of relief, saying she's safe. He grabs her arm and tells her to come with him. She panics and asks what he means. He replies that last time she almost caused him trouble. He helped her again and demands she tell the truth, asking how she got involved with those kinds of people. She explains that her family owns a warehouse and that this guy wanted to steal their goods, eliminating everyone in the process. However, he didn't expect her to escape, fearing she would spread the word. That's why he's chasing her to silence her. He releases her arm, and she says she'll remember his help and promises to repay him in the future. He responds, "Repay? And who would want to get involved in this mess?" She walks on, saying no. They cast a barrier spell and were discovered. A voice suggests they should leave quickly, but Jiang replies that it's too late to flee. He thinks those guys probably wouldn't believe him if he said he didn't know her. They approach, and he realizes there are too many of them. The young master says he knew Jiang was lying and orders his men to capture them. The girl becomes desperate and asks why he's so intent on killing her since he's already taken all the Luo family's goods. He coldly replies, asking if he needs a reason. Jiang observes and thinks about the Luo family. The girl retorts that if he kills her, the Luo family will never let him rest and will never give up. The young master laughs, mocking the Luo family, saying they think they're something just because they have a little money. He continues, saying that a century ago, if not for the protection of the Xiao family's ancestors, they would have been annihilated long ago. In the eyes of the Xiao family, they're nothing but parasites, mere livestock to be eradicated. He sneers, adding that even if they try to investigate, what can they uncover if there's nothing left? He then activates his skill, turning the surroundings red, and Jiang recognizes it as the Xiao family's dragon prison formation, trapping them inside. Jiang curses him in his thoughts. The young master commands his men not to leave anyone alive. They acknowledge but hesitate, saying they have a request. Although they're willing to kill the girl, they're intrigued by the awakened one of the creation class. The young master remarks that a divine-ranked creation class is rare, and notes that Jiang isn't like the others, who fail to see his value. He offers Jiang a chance to survive, capture the girl, spare her life, and work for the Xiao family. He asks Jiang what he thinks. Jiang laughs mockingly as the terrified girl steps back. He tells the young master that he truly knows how to make an offer, then promptly tells him to go to hell. Jiang declares that if the young master doesn't like it, he should come at him directly. Furious, the young master orders his men to kill them both immediately, warning them to be cautious as Jiang uses poison and they mustn't touch him. The men acknowledge the command and advance. Jiang activates his plant-based ability, declaring that poison isn't his only skill. He uses his talent for accelerating the growth of living creatures, ensnaring them in plant roots. The men curse and question what's happening, exclaiming that they thought he only used poison. They begin cutting the plants, scoffing at their weakness. The young master calls them fools and orders them to block Jiang's vision, saying that's how he will strike. Jiang smirks, saying it's too late, and unleashes his insects to attack. His enemies are thrown back, and one of the men yells in frustration, noting that Jiang's ability isn't just poison. He can summon monsters. Terrified, the man looks up and realizes the poison is coming from the summoned creatures. Unable to dodge, he falls victim, and Jiang declares triumphantly that he got him. The young master approaches, telling Jiang to flee if he values his life. With his sword in hand, the young master announces 9 forms of Kongning, first form, launching an attack. Jiang observes, realizing the attack is stronger than his poison mist. The young master reveals it's a secret technique of the Xiao family called dragon pursuit, sending stones flying. He admits he knew Jiang would be tough to handle but mocks him, saying Jiang's low level and slow movements make him easy prey. He boasts that his sword alone will be enough to end Jiang. However, his confidence wavers when the girl activates her hidden class, the Eternal Earth Shield. Jiang realizes she's a defensive type. The young master, caught off guard, says he had forgotten about her. Jiang takes the opportunity to command his insects to attack. One of the young master's men shouts, warning him, but the young master uses his own subordinate as a human shield, letting him take the hit. Jiang calls him a bastard for sacrificing one of his men. The injured subordinate, face bloodied, cries out in pain and calls for help. The young master coldly responds that dying for him won't be in vain, and strides toward Jiang. The young master acknowledges Jiang's strength, admitting he never thought he'd have to use the dragon elixir. With his sword in hand, he declares that it's over and that his next attack will decapitate Jiang. He unleashes his technique, 9 forms of supreme petrification, second form, dragon subjugation, causing stones to fly, and emitting red, orange, and yellow lights. The girl counters with an enhanced version of her Eternal Earth Shield, while the young master continues his relentless assault. She, still trying to maintain the shield, says that since he consumed the elixir, his strength has increased significantly, and claims that her shield is going to break. meaning they will die. Jiang observes and thinks that all of his attacks are fatal, and his previous one was already astonishing. He hadn't expected him to become even stronger. The young master continues attacking with dragon subjugation, and Jiang reflects on his extraordinary cruelty and strength. Jiang concludes that to deal with him, he can't hold back. He then summons all his insects. The young master is outraged, wondering if Jiang is really of the creation class. The girl is surprised, and the young master commands his men to attack Jiang's insects. He scoffs at their number, wielding his sword while continuing to use dragon subjugation, claiming that no matter how many there are, they are still just insects. He attacks but becomes confused, asking in disbelief if they're actually healing. Jiang watches and says he'll see how long the young master can last. The young master continues attacking, but even the dragon energy is being absorbed. Then one of the insects strikes his arm, tearing his clothing. He curses and realizes his right hand has been poisoned, leaving him unable to wield his sword. Pulling an item from his tunic, he declares he has no other choice and activates the jade shield. He taunts Jiang, asking if he really thinks his insects can defeat someone as great as Xiao, sneering, "Keep dreaming." Jiang remarks that the treasure granting him such power is truly unique and uses his devour domination skill. He questions how the shield remains intact and identifies it as a generational treasure of the Xiao family. Once activated, it blocks all external attacks, making him invulnerable with the jade shield in place. Xiao declares that Jiang has been cornered and admits he is incredible, but now realizes there's no way Jiang can win. He offers Jiang another chance to follow him blindly, join their family, and receive the Xiao name, a dream of many. He adds that Jiang should feel honored. Jiang asks if Xiao is serious and mocks him, suggesting he's used to having everything handed to him without realizing the gravity of his own situation. Xiao dismisses this as bluffing, responding, "Fine, if you don't want to, I may not be able to kill you today, but what about tomorrow or the day after?" He approaches Jiang, asking if he still doesn't understand the power of the Xiao family. "Do you really think you can handle it?" he sneers. Jiang counters, asking if Xiao himself hadn't just mentioned that evidence would be needed for an investigation. What would happen, Jiang wonders aloud, if Xiao were to die without leaving any evidence behind? At that moment, a massive attack emerges, and Xiao's subordinates shout for their master. Looking back, Jiang sees a giant insect and asks, "What the hell is that?" He then realizes that little Nine has woken up, and she replies that she was starving. Xiao activates his shield but is still struck, incredulously asking how it's possible and what kind of insect this is. Jiang retorts that both Xiao and his jade shield will make a fine meal for Little Nine. Little Nine proceeds to attack the shield protecting Xiao. Furious, Xiao wonders if the shield has been broken. "That's impossible. The jade shield should be," he begins, but he's interrupted by another attack that slams him against the wall. He finishes his sentence, shouting, "Invincible!" Little Nine continues her assault and soon devours Xiao, leaving behind a massive pool of blood. Jiang remarks that this way, no one will ever find out what happened, and orders Little Nine to return. She cheerfully responds that she's coming. Jiang then declares that the Xiao family is nothing but a load of crap. Little Nine hugs him, exclaiming how delicious it was and confessing that she loves her master very much. The girl watches, deep in thought, and wonders if now that she's seen Jiang's secret, he might try to kill her too. Jiang confirms her fears, saying it's true and asking if she saw everything. He then asks her what he should do with her, demanding a reason not to kill her. Terrified, she pulls out the gold she had hidden and pleads, saying it's all she has and should be worth 10 million. "This is basically my life savings, and I'll give it all to you," she says, trembling. Jiang responds that she's very sincere, but it's a shame, because she knows too much and also knows how to lie. She raises her arm and swears by her life that if she is lying to him, a lightning bolt will strike her 5 times. Jiang asks if a girl named Luo Sandao lies so shamelessly. She insists that she's telling the truth and admits she doesn't know what her parents were thinking either. She repeats that she's being honest and reveals her identity to him. Jiang asks if she's sure it's her. She explains that the photo is from 2 years ago, when she hadn't grown much yet. She also says her hair was the same as in the photo and asks him to wait. Jiang asks if it's because she hadn't lost weight, and she confirms, but adds that this doesn't mean she'll keep her mouth shut. In the end, only the dead don't talk, he remarks. She reassures him that he doesn't need to worry and, using her skill, pulls out an object. He asks what it is, and she says it's a seal scroll, warning that if the wrongdoer reveals the secret, she'll kill them immediately. Luo swears to protect Jiang's secret to the death. With the scroll in her hand, she admits she's afraid of dying. Jiang observes and thinks he didn't know something like this was in her possession, and tells her he won't kill her since she's signed a contract with him. She thanks him, and he asks how much the scroll costs. She replies that it costs 10 million, and Jiang points out that this means the only valuable item in her storage ring has already been used. Luo asks him not to get angry, and says that as long as he escorts her home, her parents will compensate him. Jiang starts walking and says he'll report to the night watch tomorrow morning since he's already been delayed too long. He wishes her all the best. Luo asks him to help her get back home, since it's closer than going to the night watch, and assures him she won't be delayed because her house has a teleportation system. She asks him to wait for her. At the Luo family mansion inside, a woman says, "How dare they kill people? The Xiao family is going too far." All the servants, kneeling, tell her to calm down, saying that everyone deserves to die and that the young miss has suffered. The madame replies that they do deserve it, but still, she insists they should calm down. Her husband interrupts, telling her to relax, and adds that the most important thing is that their Sandao has returned safely. He reminds her that the Xiao family is one of the great families of the Zhen Empire, and they're not people to be trifled with. Jiang thinks, so her name really is Luo Sandao. Luo's father thanks Jiang for saving their daughter and asks him to accept a black card. Her mother agrees and asks Jiang to have breakfast so he can eat before leaving. The teleportation will only take a few minutes. Jiang thanks them for the card and says the breakfast, but his stomach growls, and he adds that he'll just eat a little. Luo's father offers to take him to the kitchen. In the kitchen, Jiang is sitting at the table with a chicken leg in his hand and several dishes in front of him that he's already eaten. He thinks to himself, the more insects I control, the more I have to eat. And he says, this is just a little bit. Luo tells him not to rush, as he can eat as much as he wants. Her mother says that even though their daughter claimed he's from the creation class, he's also of divine rank, because, as someone who has just awakened, he managed to save someone from the Xiao family. Luo's husband agrees, adding that even without her saying so, Jiang doesn't seem like the useless person he appears to be. He also mentions that Jiang is handsome, thinking, if he could help us take on the Xiao family and protect our daughter. He then asks if Jiang has a girlfriend, since their daughter doesn't either, and if he doesn't think their family's only hidden occupation would be a good match for him. He adds that their daughter is also skilled in negotiations and financial management. Luo's father then says that the most important thing is that she has a beautiful figure, saying, 36, 24, 36, and that she's both beautiful and intelligent. He's already thinking of a name for their future grandson. Jiang places the cup down on the table and chokes on what he was eating. Luo tells her parents that they're being too rude. At that, Jiang bolts up, thanks them for their hospitality, and says that he's eaten enough and has something urgent to do. They say they'll discuss this again some other time. Luo sits in the chair, embarrassed, her cheeks flushed. Luo's father asks why. As his wife, she didn't accompany him to the door when he left. Her mother tells her not to worry, as the black card her father gave Jiang has a tracker, so she can follow him wherever he goes. Luo screams for them to stop, thinking to herself, even though he's strong and handsome, he's still scary. But even though he's scary, he's really good-looking and powerful. At the Xiao family estate, Yuan Shan, Yuan's father, curses and says that Yuan's jade shield was broken. He orders a thorough investigation to find out who did this. One of his subordinates responds affirmatively and says they'll send someone to look into it. Beihan approaches and tells his grandfather that his cousin is already in his 20s and has just reached level 30 with his second awakening. He comments that it's undoubtedly a waste, questioning what's so tragic about the death of someone useless, saying that it's not worth his anger. Yuan Shan responds that Yuan's qualifications are truly mediocre and far inferior to Beihan's. It's not that he cares about his death, but in the end, he is still his grandson. The person responsible needs to know who they're dealing with. Yuan Shan wants to know who, in the Daxia territory, had the courage to defy him. Beihan tells him not to worry about these small matters, and that after finishing at the camp, no matter who it is, he'll take care of them on his behalf. At the Night Watch base office, Jiang walks in, and Gang greets him, saying he's finally arrived. Jiang wonders what's going on, and says that he's here to work for the Night Watch. Gang pats his shoulder and tells him that they've been waiting for him, and that he'll introduce him to the team first. He points to Yun, level 45, a support role. She's the youngest, but she's been given the title. She's impressed, and tells Jiang that he's so handsome, and that it's the first time she's worked with someone so good-looking. Next, Gang introduces Duan, level 49, a sharpshooter. He doesn't talk much and is quite proud, but says it's a pleasure to meet him. Then there's Chu, level 49, a tank. He's small but very sturdy and talks a lot. He says he now knows someone with a divine rank occupation, and that's enough to brag about for life. Finally, there's Jin, level 61, a fire mage, third awakening, who's also the vice commander, and an excellent cook. She tells Jiang that from now on, if he follows her, he'll have delicious food to eat. Jiang thanks them all, saying that a mere creation class guy like him isn't anything special. He wonders if they're getting too excited, even though he's a divine rank. The creation class isn't exactly the most popular among many people. Gang asks what's wrong with the creation class. A divine rank is still a divine rank, and he shouldn't worry about those people, since they don't look down on him. In fact, they chose him. This is his future home. Jiang thinks that he only wanted to go there to gather resources and hide his identity. But now, Gang throws his arm around Jiang's shoulder, telling him that it's fine, and urging him to get started. They want to sign him up for the Tianzhou training camp in 3 days to gather some resources, but there's one condition. He must be level 20 or above. Jiang doesn't know how many levels he needs to reach. Jiang answers that he's currently at level 17. The instructor is surprised and asks if Jiang awakened just 3 days ago and has already reached level 17. He starts laughing and says that's great, that he didn't judge him wrongly. He really is a divine rank, and that leveling up 3 times as fast won't be difficult. He says he'll sign Jiang up for the camp later. The others look on, somewhat surprised and confused. Gang asks Jiang if he's been dealing with powerful people lately, and mentions that someone unknown, with a 3rd awakening, is using their divine sense to investigate Jiang's whereabouts. Jiang ponders the mention of a 3rd awakening and wonders if it could be the Xiao family. Gang says he'll leave that to Xiaoke, who responds affirmatively and adds that she'll make a soundproof barrier first so they can talk calmly. She sets up the barrier and asks Jiang if there's anything he should tell them, instead of keeping it to himself. Jiang says that he killed Yuanwu yesterday and left no evidence, so he doesn't know how they found out. The others are surprised and ask if it was the Xiao family, and if it was Yuan Shan's grandson. Jiang confirms, saying that it seems he did something that annoyed them. Gang remarks that it's well known that the Xiao family has done many wrong things. The younger generation of the Xiao family has been committing crimes for years, and people even consider it a kind of good deed. And while the Xiao family can be terrifying, from what's known, Yuanwu was the least promising and favored among the grandsons. So that old man, Yuan Shan, probably couldn't even act personally. Jin asks if Yuan Shan sent someone to deal with it instead. They can't just sit around waiting. Jiang thinks to himself that, as an orphan, although he had neighbors who helped him since he was young, this is the first time he truly feels at home. Gang says that even if Jiang wasn't particularly talented, he should have already gone through his 2nd awakening by now. How could someone at level 17 in the creation class, in their 1st awakening, manage to kill someone at level 30 in the combat class without a 2nd awakening? Jiang asks Gang to calm down, explaining that he got help from someone. Gang asks who, and Jiang answers that it was from the Luo family of Jiangnan, specifically Luo Sandao, because she has a hidden occupation in the support class. The instructor wonders if they are the richest merchants in Jiangnan and their only daughter. He laughs, saying it's not bad. Even though the Luo family isn't a martial family, no one can outdo them in wealth, and if they run into problems, he's sure they'll help Jiang. He tells Jiang to wait though, since Luo Sandao is in the support class and doesn't have much offensive power. Jiang adds that he actually has 2 occupations. One of them is a hidden occupation, the poison system. The instructor is surprised and tries to touch the poison, asking how many surprises Jiang has. Jiang replies that it's a lot of poison, so he has to be careful. Gang says that he doesn't know who Jiang himself is, touching Jiang's hand, which is coated with poison, using a defense salt. Jiang says that his defense is broken. He tells Gang to back off, since he simply didn't protect himself from Jiang's poison, and calls Xiaoke to lend a hand. She responds affirmatively and heals Jiang's hand. Jiang observes and says that he warned Gang that it was poisonous. Gang replies that it's a good poison, since the more skillful it is, the happier he, as an elder, feels. He adds that, speaking of which, despite Jiang's good talent, when it comes to the Xiao family, it's better not to enroll in the Tianzhou camp. While they could gather several resources there, Gang believes the Xiao family will also participate, and Jiang and Luo Sandao can't afford to take risks for mere resources. Jiang asks what kind of resources he's referring to. Gang responds that they're just beast essences, equipment, and so on. If they rank in the top spots, they'll get rewards like mystical fruits and secret realm scrolls. But he tells Jiang to put that aside for now. Jiang thinks to himself that these resources are much better than hunting monsters alone, and perhaps he could even breed another offspring. He says that he needs to participate, as he's not afraid of danger, and knows how to protect himself. Gang replies that he'll think about it. At the Xiao family estate, near the West Lake, the waves ripple. A voice announces that young Master Beihan is indeed the strongest in the Xiao family, and his combat power has reached a new level. Beihan orders them to stop talking nonsense and asks if they've figured out what they were investigating. The servants reply affirmatively, saying they found out that young Master Yuanwu had some dealings with a woman named Luo Sandao. Furthermore, this woman traveled with someone named Jiang. Beihan says he knows that the girl from the Luo family doesn't have much combat power and asks who this Jiang is. The servants explain that Jiang is a divine rank awakener from the creation class, who entered the Night Watch. They also discovered that he and Luo Sandao have signed up for the Tianzhao camp. However, for now, both are just suspects, and there is no concrete evidence yet. Beihan replies that suspicion is enough. A divine rank creation class awakener is interesting. He says that since they've signed up for the camp, there's no need to make a special trip just to kill them. Meanwhile, at the Night Watch, Gang is sitting on the couch, saying that even though he enrolled Jiang in the camp, he's still uneasy. Just to be safe, he found a strong ally among the participants, Mu Hankui, the little princess of the Mu family. Before leaving, he plans to accompany her into a secret realm, not just to level up, but also to establish a relationship in advance. He heard she's not only beautiful, but also the same age as him. Once she sees him, he'll be able to use his looks to win her over all at once. He feels a little embarrassed and responds to himself. Someone knocks on the door, and Gang says that she's here. Mu Hankui enters and says that, yesterday, she asked Uncle Lee if she could borrow someone from the Night Watch, and he simply refused. She asks why he changed his mind today, or if it was because of a handsome man. Gang laughs awkwardly and says that she's a bit different from what he's heard. He explains that yesterday he wasn't in agreement because he was angry at his grandfather, but today he agreed because there's an additional condition, to bring Jiang along. She responds that she already gave him the level 30 secret realm scroll and asks if he still wants to negotiate further. He answers that everyone needs something, and asks if she didn't come here looking for someone reliable with combat experience, since the entry requirement is for those under level 50. She walks up to Jiang and asks him to state his combat power. He replies, level 17 creation class. She responds, what? You're a newbie under level 20? And from that trash creation class? So basically you're useless? Gang gets irritated and asks what she just said, calling her a brat and telling her to call him Uncle G when she enters. How could she say that? Jiang is divine rank and has 2 occupations. He asks if she understands, and Uncle Lee holds him back, telling him to watch his words since Mu has just broken up with her boyfriend. With tears in her eyes, Mu Hankui says for Lee to stop talking, and she agrees to the conditions. Jiang thinks that's too much information. In the level 30 secret realm, the entry requirements are a maximum of 5 people, level 50 or below. The mission requirements are, 1 person must eliminate the monsters in the Guangming village, and 2 must kill the boss and destroy the altar. Duan says they need to listen carefully, and that he'll lead the group this time. He reminds them that if, by any chance, they get separated and face danger, they should immediately return using the teleportation stone. Despite the relatively low chance of irregularities in secret realms, Chu asks if Jiang knows how much a level 30 secret realm scroll is worth. Jiang replies that it's worth at least 1 billion. Duan says that if anything happens, they should return immediately and leave the secret realm. Mu tells Jiang not to start crying at the beginning, and Jiang thinks, damn, wondering why it's a level 30 secret realm, and not knowing exactly what's going on. Chu says they should go, as he'll protect Jiang. He thinks, I have a bad feeling about this. Inside the secret realm, Chu says the village is quite pretty and asks where the monsters are. Duan replies that they're probably hiding in the houses and suggests they go look. As they approach, Duan tells Bulang to open the doors and lock the monsters in. He'll deal damage while Xiao Ke helps from behind with Jiang, telling him not to wander off. They walk and observe a stone. Duan says there's something strange about it. Xiao Ke says she feels a dark energy in the village and asks if she can purify the area first. Jiang watches and thinks that the buff is amazing. Not only does it clear his mind, but it also boosts his agility and energy attributes. The village turns red, and strong winds blow. Duan says something's wrong and tells them to run, shouting for them to go back immediately because it's a mutation. The notification for the level 30 secret realm, Beautiful Village, has been updated to Village of the Dead. The mission requirements now are, eliminate the dead in the village and kill the boss. The light dissipates, darkness spreads, and the gates to the realm of the dead will eventually open. Jiang is confused and asks, Village of the Dead? He realizes that the secret realm has gone from an ordinary level to a nightmare level. Everyone disappears after the mutation, and Jiang reflects that, at his level, fighting in a level 30 secret realm could be risky. He thinks he should listen to Brother Duan and head to the teleportation stone first. As he walks, he stumbles upon several graves and a portrait, wondering if there's no way out, and if they're all graves. He questions whether he's imagining things, or if the portrait is smiling at him. Then he notices the graves opening, and numerous corpses emerge with immunity to general physical attacks. He complains about their immunity and tries using poison, but it's ineffective. Climbing onto a rooftop, he realizes that poison is considered a physical attack and won't work. He thinks a mage is needed for situations like this and decides to find Sister Xiao. Little Nine says she wants food. He asks if she wants to eat them and wonders if devouring them doesn't count as a physical attack. She asks if she can eat, and he tells her to go ahead and try. He warns her not to push herself and says he'll help if she's in danger. She approaches the corpses, declaring herself strong, and devours them, expressing her happiness because there are so many. Jiang observes and thinks, I almost forgot. Little Nine comes from the abyss, and since the dead belong to the black species, after gaining the evolution skill, Little Nine can become an abyss lord. She's far stronger than these low-level creatures. He decides that since they can be devoured, he'll let everyone enjoy this feast. He releases all his insects, instructing them to spread out and not to be seen by other humans. Notifications start popping up, informing him that his insects have killed level 30 corpses, earning him significant experience. Another notification arrives, saying he's leveled up to 18, with all attributes increasing by 1 and proficiency points increasing by 10. When the insects return, he notes how fast it was. He gained 500,000 experience and leveled up in just 10 seconds. He marvels that this secret realm is like a treasure made for him. Now curious about the strange portrait, he approaches to investigate why it's no longer smiling. Little Nine reports that she ate everything outside. He congratulates her and asks if she can see whether the portrait can be devoured. She attempts to attack it, but the portrait disappears. A notification pops up, stating that Little Nine scared the level 35 Death Guard and killed it, earning 8,701 experience. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Dean is struggling to fight the corpses. He reflects that having a longbow is a blessing. Without it, he wouldn't be able to handle these creatures. He wonders how the others are doing, especially Jiang, since he's not even level 20 yet. He frets about how he'll explain it to the leader if something happens. Suddenly, he gets multiple notifications that his companion has killed level 30 corpses. Shocked, he wonders how all the monsters died in a secret realm that mutated. He considers that it couldn't have been Bulang, as his physical attacks are too passive. Xiao doesn't have a light attribute, which might restrict the monsters, but wouldn't kill them outright. And Xiao? That's even less likely. His poison or growth abilities wouldn't work on the dead. Dean ponders whether it could have been Mu, wondering if she's that strong. If someone in the group can easily kill all the monsters, it means they can save the others, and perhaps Jiang is holding on. Elsewhere, Mu is trying to fend off the monsters. Her face is bloodied and bruised, and she thinks she can't die here. She has a hidden occupation and needs to join the camp to revitalize her family. She's running out of energy and can barely use her speed skill. Desperate to go home, she fears death until she notices the corpses fleeing. She wonders who managed to kill the dead all at once. Feeling the presence of a powerful aura, she resolves to hold on just a little longer and hopes to be saved. Collapsing to the ground, she calls for help and is surprised to see Jiang. She's stunned, questioning how it's possible. As the corpses grab her arms, she cries for help. Jiang tells her to run away and not get in his way. She runs off, screaming, but trips and falls, declaring that he's so cool. Seeing the purple lights and poisons, Mu wonders if this could really be from that so-called horrible class. She speculates whether Jiang has a hidden poison-related class. Her heart races, and she questions whether it's from the poison. Half an hour earlier, Chu, panting and out of breath, had complained that these corpses were such a hassle. Duan agreed, noting it was strange that there weren't any more after they left the houses. Xiao wondered aloud if Mu had killed them all using some kind of secret treasure. Duan then questioned how Jiang was doing. As they moved forward, Xiao noticed signs of a recent battle and pointed out that there were pieces of corpses scattered around. Duan insisted they find Jiang quickly, saying that if something happened to him, none of them would be able to face the consequences. They eventually found Jiang and Mu sitting on some stairs. The group approached, and Duan remarked how odd it was that the granddaughter of a king would pick up a sword to help Jiang. He joked that they were probably monsters in disguise. Jiang greeted them, saying he was glad they arrived and pointing out that the boss altar was likely behind them. Alarmed, Duan took a step back and asked them to wait. Xiao demanded answers, and Mu stepped forward, asking what they planned to do with Jiang, saying they'd have to get through her first. Jiang placed his hand on Mu's face, telling her he knew what she was thinking and assuring her he wasn't a monster, just more charming than usual. He teased her, asking if she didn't believe him, then said their leader's name was Gang and mentioned Aunt Tang, the best cook. Chu finally admitted it was indeed Jiang and was glad he was safe. Xiao asked if Jiang was hurt, and he replied for everyone to stop acting strange and go back to their usual behavior. Mu apologized, saying she'd behave, while the group teased Jiang. Annoyed, he told them to stop and asked if they were planning to fight the boss or not. They all agreed and prepared for battle. When they encountered the leader of the undead, a level 40 boss, Duan warned everyone to be cautious. He outlined their strategy. He would grab the boss's attention. Mu would protect Jiang. Xiao would keep providing buffs and avoid attacks, and Chu would handle damage while prioritizing his own safety. Duan emphasized that everyone should stay careful and not make mistakes. Suddenly, the boss lowered itself to the ground. Duan asked what was happening, and Chu wondered if it was begging for mercy. Jiang observed and said the others were already hurt, so they should let him handle the boss. Thinking it was the perfect opportunity, he decided to let Little Nine eat. She devoured the entire boss, and a notification appeared, announcing that the boss had been killed and experience had been gained. Little Nine regained her energy, and Jiang leveled up to 26, with all attributes and proficiency points increased. Another notification congratulated them on defeating the final boss and completing the secret realm, calculating their rewards. The group watched, confused and amazed, asking if the boss was truly dead, and if Jiang had somehow instantly killed the undead. Laughing, Jiang said he was lucky and that the poison had been effective. More notifications appeared, granting rewards to all players, including a special item called the Dead Man's Medal, which could absorb a fatal attack. It was a bound item and couldn't be traded or sold. The group marveled at the individual and group rewards, noting they had never received such valuable items before. They admitted Jiang had carried them the entire time, thanking him while he laughed. Deep in thought, Jiang reflected on how a level 30 secret realm had such an incredible drop rate for valuable items. He estimated the equipment was worth billions. Noticing an invisibility cloak among the loot, he decided to keep it. The cloak's features included shadow invisibility, allowing the wearer to remain unseen for 3 minutes when activated. Jiang deemed the rest of the items less useful and planned to sell them once he returned, intending to buy blood essence for his insects. A final notification appeared, warning that the mutated secret realm was about to disappear and advising all players to leave immediately. Jiang mused that his devour value had increased significantly this time and thought that if they could acquire more blood essence, he might be able to create another offspring soon. The commercial building of the Night Watch presents Gang, angry, asking if the secret kingdom has mutated, if Jiang has conquered Mu Hangqiu, and how he managed to carry all of them. He tells the others to leave, as he only wants to speak with Jiang. The others leave, and Gang asks Jiang to be honest with him, saying that the reason his poison might have worked on the monsters and fooled Duan and the others, but it doesn't fool him. He asks what else Jiang is hiding. Jiang watches him and wonders if he will have to reveal his insects to him, thinking they are a calamity from ancient times. If people find out about them, he wonders if he will be okay. Then, Gang tells Jiang to speak. Jiang gets nervous, and Gang laughs, saying that even someone like him can get nervous. He asks what happened to the courage Jiang had in the secret kingdom. Jiang replies that he was scared, and Gang says that wasn't supposed to scare him. He explains that if Jiang doesn't want to talk now, he won't force him. The more baggage he holds, the happier he will be. In the future, their vigil will depend on him to achieve more glory. Jiang tells him to relax, as he'll at least give him a full set of epic gear. Gang laughs, calling him a silly child, and asks if he's joking about the epic gear. Jiang responds that he's serious. Gang says it's fine, and with a flick of his finger he observes that it's good Jiang has something hidden, but there are things that need to be explained. Then, Gang places 3 corpses on the ground. Jiang asks who they are, and Gang replies that they are masters of the Third Awakening, above level 60. 2 of them are level 90 or above, masters of the Fourth Awakening. He says he can't deal with any of them, as he's just a body collector. Jiang, shocked, asks if they were trying to kill him, and Gang answers no, they were trying to kill Mu Hangqiu. However, her guardian quietly took care of them. Jiang, curious, asks why they wanted to kill Mu Hangqiu, and Gang asks him to take a look at this. He shows a hunting list of Daxia's geniuses, highlighting the top places up to 12th. Jiang looks and asks if Beihan from the Xiao family of the Zhen Empire is on the list. Gang answers yes, that Beihan is one of the best geniuses of his generation in Daxia. He will also participate in the Tianzhou camp in the 8 major region zone. Beihan will stay with him in the Jiangnan zone, ranked 7th in the King of Seals ranking, 8th in the Zhen Empire, and 9th in Wudi. Gang continues explaining that the top 100 geniuses of Daxia, with the lower ranks being descendants of the Seal Kings. So, as a descendant of one of the Seal Kings of Jiangnan, Mu Hangqiu is ranked 77th. Uncle Ji says that even so, many masters have tried to exterminate her, but all were eliminated by her secret guards. At 77th place If Mu Hangqiu is eliminated, she can choose a secret rank reward. Gang says that if this is the strength of the Seal Kings, he asks the boy to imagine the strength of the Xiao family. Jiang asks if this was shown to warn him about attracting attention in the camp. The professor answers yes. The better the potential, the more danger one will be in, and that one should only show power recklessly when necessary. He explains that there are powerful forces protecting the geniuses, and despite having him there, he fears he might not be able to protect him. Jiang says he will remember this and thinks that his uncle not only blamed him for hiding something, but is also trying to protect him. Gang changes the subject, talking about the secret kingdom, and says that if the rank on the list is revealed, the protagonist's rank would be higher than Mu's. He then asks what Jiang did with her, and says that the secret kingdom is full of the dead, and that his taste is quite... Jiang walks away and tells Gang to go take a bath and sleep. The uncle says he didn't say that it was bad. The protagonist observes the essence liquids of ranks 3 and 4, and says that after selling most of the equipment for these liquids, he will be able to create his 2 progenies. He pours the liquid onto his hand and says it's time for the insects to feed, explaining that it takes thousands of beasts to obtain a single bottle. The little 9, perched on his head, says she wants to eat. The protagonist replies no, as it's still too early for her next reproduction. The insect mother becomes sad and starts crying. Jiang gets irritated and throws her onto the table with the liquids, telling her to eat too. The protagonist pours the rank 4 essence onto his hand for the insects to feed. Then, notifications arrive, saying that 9 miasma's offspring have begun to reproduce. Another notification follows, saying that the reproduction is complete. Suddenly, insects begin to crawl out of his hand. Jiang is confused, trying to hold his arm. Looking up, he sees them and tells them that this is his home and not to leave. Enraged, he raises his arm and orders them to return to the nest and not leave without his permission. Around him, the house is destroyed. The protagonist observes and says that they have destroyed the house. Jiang looks at the little 9 and says that they only know how to eat, asking how she deals with this. More notifications arrive, showing his data. After observing, he asks if it's not growing too fast, as they're nearly reaching a 3rd awakening master. Jiang says that now he just has to wait for tomorrow's journey, and once he reaches level 30, he'll be able to complete his 2nd awakening. And when that happens, he'll be able to have a new insect mother. At the vigil, Jin asks if the king of the celestial blade should be introduced. Gang, seated in a chair, says that, for precaution, Jiang will inevitably run into Beihan in the Jiangnan zone, and that it's impossible to keep secrets in the camp. He continues by saying that there's something about Jiang that scares him, as his poison is just a taboo. Jin asks how that's possible, and tells him not to scare him, reminding him that since the commotion and the birth of the forbidden occupation, all those involved have been killed. He goes on to say that if Jiang truly had a forbidden occupation, it would have been revealed by now, and that the professor is just being paranoid. Gang says he really hopes it's his paranoia. Jiang is walking through a forest with a piece of paper in his hand and asks which path he should take, since he's already gotten lost once. Suddenly, he hears a cry for help and becomes confused. Looking up, he encounters a man saying that he's afraid of heights and needs help. The protagonist uses his ability to grow all creatures' vines. Laying the man on the ground, he screams in fright. On the ground, the man says that it was horrible and that he wanted to get the nest, and Jiang wonders how someone could be afraid of heights but still want to get the nest. The man asks what he can do to repay the help, and Jiang asks if he knows how to get to the Tianzhou camp. The man replies that he's going in the same direction and can guide him. Jiang thanks him for that. They walk, and Jiang asks why the man doesn't put the sword in his inventory. The man answers that he's not an awakened one, and he's just practicing with it. He explains that after failing his awakening, he carried on with his life, and even after 10 years, he couldn't afford a bathroom in the city. He continues, saying that during that time, he became disheartened and went to the mountains to get away until he found a cabin and came across this sword. He decided to practice swordsmanship daily in the mountains, and after training for 50 years, he suddenly had an epiphany and asks Jiang if he finds that curious. Jiang says yes, and the man asks if he'd like to learn from him, explaining that he only knows one move. The man laughs and says he's quite eager and will wait until Jiang wants to learn from him. Jiang tries to change the subject and asks if they aren't heading to the camp. Suddenly, the man disappears, and Jiang is confused, asking where he went. He says the man is very strange. At the camp, the staff member says that those who want to enter must line up, identify themselves, and take a bracelet, keeping it on until they're eliminated. Jiang takes the bracelet, and the assistant warns him not to lose it and to get ready to enter the camp. Then, Mu and Luo observe Jiang and call him master and benefactor. He becomes confused, considers ignoring benefactor, and wonders why they're calling him master, while the girls exchange glances. Mu asks if Luo is his ex. Luo tells Mu to stop with the ex talk, and Mu responds that she's right, that she wasn't anything. Jiang thinks that this is quite a bit of information, and the insect mother finds it interesting. Luo asks why Mu continues to follow him, and Mu, standing next to Jiang, tells her not to daydream because master is him. Luo says that she's always said she wasn't, and now it's become reality. Mu replies that Jiang really gives her butterflies in her stomach. Sandao hugs Mu and says that now they're good friends. Mu responds that they could be considered enemies, and Jiang thinks this is just girl talk. Suddenly, random people start a fight. Jiang, surprised, asks what's going on here, and Luo says it looks like someone's fighting. The instructor arrives and says that they haven't even entered the camp yet, and they're already fighting. Jiang observes and thinks that the instructor's strength must be that of a grandmaster. Then, suddenly, the instructor is thrown far away. Lying on the ground, he tells them to inform the higher-ups that these lunatics are here. Luo asks if a grandmaster was sent flying with just one blow. Who's fighting? Mu says they're the best in the Jiangnan zone. She then introduces a woman named Ying, who is an assassin, and her strength is extremely terrifying. The man emitting a red aura is Bai, known as the little god of assassins, who quickly loses control. The man holding the sword is called Beihan. His grandfather is one of the 7 pillars of Daxia, and the immortal sword is considered of divine rank. Luo says she knows him, and that the sword was stolen from her family. Jiang thinks that he truly deserves the title of genius and is stronger than Yuanwu. Then he asks who the guy in the middle is. He is the invincible descendant, Wang, with 3 occupations, all secret rank. He punches the ground, cracking it, and no one can defeat him. Jiang observes and thinks he's ranked 3rd on the hunting list, wondering if his insects can handle these people. Beihan jumps down from above with his sword in hand. Jiang pulls Luo aside and tells her to be careful. Beihan stabs his sword into the ground, leaving a huge crack. Beihan says that this fist style managed to push him, and says, "Not bad for Wang." Jiang calls out to Beihan and he walks over to him, saying that he's heard Yuanwu rested in his hands. With a blue aura surrounding him, Beihan says that, although he doesn't like Yuanwu either, he will have to be eliminated, even though he planned to deal with Wang first. Jiang, with his purple aura swirling around him, says that even though their strengths are different, the bad personalities are the same. Jiang thinks he knows he promised Ji that he wouldn't attract attention, but there's no way to avoid it in this situation. But a voice suddenly tells them to get out of the way, breaking the ground, and announcing that the chief instructor has arrived. Beihan asks, "King of the Celestial Blade?" The chief replies that those who want to cause trouble will have to answer for the sword in their hands. Jiang observes and thinks that he's the old man he met on the way, and with a swing of his sword, he shocked the 4 geniuses, to the point that they couldn't move. The vice instructor says that the 300 geniuses are present, and that he must prepare to step onto the stage and begin the opening ceremony. The geniuses are waiting for him, commenting on how frightening it is, even though they're hundreds of meters behind, and that they heard the elder took the initiative. Beihan thinks that he has finally met the legend and will defeat Wang, leaving a good impression on this elder and should make him his master. Jiang asks if the 2 know this elder. Luo responds, of course, and says she's heard stories about him since she was little. Luo says that he's not an awakened one, but managed to become the king of the seal, the strongest in the empire, and his abilities are comparable to someone at the 8th awakening. Mu says that the elder is the person her grandfather respects the most, and that her grandfather asked her to become his disciple, but he refused. Jiang asks if it's really that difficult. Mu says that, as far as she knows, Wang and Bai were both rejected by the elder, and Luo says that the elder has only accepted 2 disciples in his life, and that was over 20 years ago. Jiang wonders if the elder that everyone talks about, the old man who climbed trees to steal birds, is really the same person. On the stage, the elder introduces himself as the chief instructor of the camp. Gu says that if they don't dare to give their best here, in a real battlefield, they will be eliminated. They need the most capable geniuses. He continues by saying that, in order to better utilize the abilities of the geniuses, there will be a better selection process. The elder says he has new rules for the camp, with a mortality index. The vice calls for Gu, and the elder responds that he is the one in charge there, and that if anything happens, he will take responsibility. The vice thinks that the mortality index has never existed in the history of the camps, and with so many powerful geniuses, this is going to turn into total chaos. Gu says that 10 of them will be eliminated in each round of the test, and if anyone wants to withdraw, they can leave now. Jiang thinks that he can't withdraw, or his entire family will be embarrassed. Duan says that he doesn't want to die, and Wang thinks that he should have done this a long time ago. Beihan thinks this rule should have been made long ago, and now he will be able to complete the elder's 2 objectives. Jiang thinks he can defeat Beihan, and Gang and the others won't need to worry anymore. Gu, holding the microphone, asks if no one has withdrawn, and says it seems that everyone still has pride. He continues, saying that the camp's entrance has officially begun, and that in the first round, half of them will be eliminated. Gu says that there are 150 advancement flags that have been hidden, and that no matter what methods are used, the round ends at 6 a.m. Those with flags must advance. He tells them to fight however they wish, slamming his sword on the table, and says he will see their thirst for blood. Gu says the test has begun, and that the best method is to find the flags and hide them, avoiding cruel people. Beihan steps in front of Jiang, with his aura surrounding him and his sword in hand. Jiang tells the two girls to look for the flags while he deals with Beihan. Mu tries to say something, but Jiang interrupts her, telling her that it's an order. They run off, and Beihan asks if a rookie like him wants to play the hero. Jiang thinks that Beihan's sword is powerful, but still much weaker than Yuan Wu's, and tells him to stop talking nonsense. Jiang wonders if it's even possible to deal with him. Beihan activates his skill and says that Jiang is right, and that it's not worth wasting time talking to a dead man. As Beihan is about to attack, a voice calls out to him. Looking, he realizes it's Ying and asks what this means. Jiang wonders if this is the assassin. Ying says that the agreement was that they would kill Wushuang together as soon as it started, and asks if he's scared. Beihan replies that he's not scared. They walk, and Beihan asks where Wushuang is. She replies that she's gone to the forest, and Jiang wonders why he feels like she's helping him. She turns to him and winks, and Jiang thinks that she really was helping him, wondering why since they don't even know each other. Ying thinks that her aunt secretly asked her to look after Jiang, but with her abilities, she can't fight against Beihan. She can only use Wushuang's name to delay him. Wang crouches down and says that his father is a subordinate of his grandfather, and the flags show his dedication to him. Beihan says that if he really wants to show loyalty, he should help him, and Wang agrees, saying he will serve him in the best way possible. Ying thinks Jiang will have to deal with this alone, and hopes that Mu and Luo can protect him. Luo, holding a flag, says she found one and has 2 advancement flags. Jiang tells them they can keep them, and that he will look for others. Luo says she will help him search, but suddenly, Jiang is almost attacked but manages to dodge. An explosion rips through the sky, and pieces of wood fly. Jiang asks who it is and if they are there to steal flags. The man replies that it's not the flag he's after, but rather their lives. Luo says that he has a secret occupation, and his level is 39, and she's not sure if her earth shield can withstand him, but she's interrupted by another attack from Wang. Wang attacks with an arrow and tells them to get out of his way. Jiang steps in front of Luo, activating his skill, and says not to blame him for being merciless, as someone has to participate in the Elder's mortality index. Jiang attacks Huang with poison. Huang is startled, and asks if Jiang is not from the creation class, then tells his brothers to stop hiding and attack together. In the midst of the poison, he asks where they are and shouts. While Huang is being attacked, the other guys say to run quickly, as it's a secret poison occupation, and if Huang couldn't handle it, who can? Gu watches from a screen and comments that it was a good job, asking if this is a divine rank class with an additional secret poison occupation. The Vice wonders how Jiang killed a second awakening genius so quickly, thinking that Jiang is incredible and that no one from the Night Watch reported this. Gu asks the Vice to go and report it, and also to bring some special masters so they can be ready for teleportation. The Vice agrees. He thinks it's better to leave before the Elder changes his mind, but Gu tells him to wait. The Vice is shocked and wonders if he has changed his mind. The Elder asks him to prepare 10 beasts, release them separately, and place the advancement flags on them. The Vice thinks it's a brilliant plan. He thinks this way. The prodigies will fight the monsters for the advancement flags, avoiding harm to regular people. Beihan and Ying are trying to stop Wushuang. Wushuang says that even with the 3 of them together, they won't be able to kill him, and asks if they are forcing him to be eliminated. Beihan replies that it's 3 against 1, and there's no one else interesting to fight. An announcement is made saying that Huang has been eliminated by Jiang, and Beihan asks if this is the first elimination. Beihan thinks that Huang is much stronger than Jiang, and wonders how he died so quickly. Ying thinks that something isn't right, because if Jiang is weaker, she wonders how he managed to kill him so fast, and states that even she couldn't have done it. Beihan thinks that it seems there's a hidden tiger in the camp. Wushuang says there's another expert and asks why they don't go meet him. Another announcement is made saying that 10 beasts have been released, and all of them are carrying 3 flags each. Those who possess the flags will receive additional ranking points. Wushuang hears this and smiles, saying it seems the Elder has given them some new toys, and if they are to compete, it's better to use the advancement flag as a benchmark. Jiang hears this and is surprised to learn that first place will win 100 million. wondering if he could gather more resources and reproduce faster. He notices something strange and stays alert. He encounters a beast, and Luo says the first beast has come to them. Jiang asks if this is a rank 3 beast, and Mu warns them to be careful, as it's equivalent to a grandmaster. Luo says the beast is still paralyzed and asks why they don't take advantage of it. Jiang interrupts her and tells the two of them to hide far away. Suddenly, someone attacks, but Jiang dodges and is confused. He asks who's there. Beihan says Jiang is amazing, as he has already killed Wang and still wants to run away with the advancement flag, and that the only choice now is to eliminate him today. Jiang releases his poison and tells Beihan that if he wants to fight, he should stop talking nonsense. Beihan attacks with the skill Heaven and Earth Dragon Wind Slash, saying that Jiang's poison occupation is very good, but it's nothing compared to his sword style. Mu says that the wind can contain the poison, and Luo says that Jiang's poison is not ordinary, and if they get involved, they will only get in the way. Jiang releases the poison, turning it into a poisonous mist dragon, and Beihan is confused. Beihan, with his sword in hand, says that this mist can be dissipated, so he will encircle Jiang with his forbidden technique, the immortal sword of the Blue Lotus. He tells Jiang to watch how the sword energy consumes his poisonous mist. Jiang asks if it's really true, and thinks that the sword energy, blocking his view, makes it easier to devour. Little Nine comments that the sword energy is devouring and says it's tasty, and that the devouring value keeps increasing. Jiang tells her to stop, saying that when she's full, she will help him. He then releases more poison to break the sword energy. Beihan is attacked and spits liquid from his mouth. Fallen on the ground, he asks how this is possible and what kind of poison could destroy the sword energy. He then defends himself with the Jade Shield and says it's a pity he can't break the Jade Shield. Jiang thinks that Xiao's family did it again and that he is being watched. He cannot allow the insects to escape. Jiang asks Luo to create a protective shield to cover the area. She replies that she will try. She then forms the Earth Protective Shield. Beihan observes and asks what she is trying to do. Jiang tells him to guess how Xuanwu expired. Beihan gets angry and asks how he dares to compare their shield, asking if he is that naive. Jiang says it was Beihan who compared the past and present, and that he is the naive one, telling Little Nine to tear him to pieces. Little Nine replies that she will do so, and Beihan asks what that is. Little Nine tries to attack him. Jiang wonders if the sword's energy protects Beihan's body, and thinks he didn't expect Beihan to be able to do this. The beast attempts to attack, and they watch in confusion. Jiang thinks that the beast has awakened, and he has no choice but to use all his power. He tells the mist dragon to flow through Beihan's sword and protect Little Nine, then tells them that the beast's flesh is there so they can help themselves. Beihan complains that the sword energy has been corroded, and there is no way to attack. The beast is struck. Little Nine tries to attack the Jade Shield. Jiang thinks that Yusanshan favors his grandchildren, because Beihan's Jade Shield is much more durable than Yuanwu's. However, no matter how durable it is, it's only a matter of time before Little Nine finishes it off. If it took 3 seconds before, it will take 3 minutes now. The Vice, watching on the screen, says this is bad, as Beihan seemed to be at a disadvantage, and now Jiang has blocked the view. He tells Fang to check the mental state, and if something is wrong, he should teleport immediately. Fang replies that he understands. Gu asks what this is about, and whether Yuanshan's grandson can't be injured or killed. The Vice asks what if he is actually injured or killed, and if Gu is prepared to fight Yuanshan, and if the commander of the Jiangnan zone knows about this. He continues saying that even though they've ordered a prohibition on any information from the camp, as soon as it ends, the outside world will know. Gu thinks that Beihan's skills are considered top tier, and wonders if Jiang can really kill him, and what Jiang is doing to block the view. As the beast is being defeated, Jiang says that this beast may be strong, but it is nothing compared to his insects. Little Nine manages to crack the shield, and Beihan asks how that's happening. Jiang observes and says that Beihan won't hold out for much longer. Suddenly, a voice approaches, telling Jiang not to overstep, as the Grandmaster is here, and Jiang is startled. He wonders if the instructor is sending a telepathic warning, then tells Little Nine to return, thinking that if they are seen, they might be exposed. Jiang tells them to self-destruct to destroy the shield, and for the rest to transform into poison. Beihan asks what this is. The shield starts to develop holes. The shield opens, causing a huge aura. Luo complains of pain, and Mu worries about her. Beihan disappears, leaving only his arm and the 3 flags. Jiang wonders if it's just the arm left, or if he was saved by the Grandmaster of the department, and says he will take the arm and recover the rest when he can. Jiang throws the sword to Luo and tells her it's hers, and she thanks him. The girls say that Jiang has advanced to the top 10, with the 3 flags. He says it's one for each of them. Luo says the sword is enough, and Mu says she doesn't want it. A hand slams onto the table. The vice asks why Fang didn't teleport Beihan in time. Fang replies that the poison was too strong, and he only heard a very loud explosion and used all his strength to teleport, but it was too late. The vice asks how that's possible, and how the poison could corrode his spiritual power, telling Fang to stop making excuses. Gu yells at him to be silent. The vice tries to explain, but Gu says he stays at the peak of the fifth awakening because of the favor of the powerful, and when Yuan Shan was mentioned, he didn't care to respond. He continues saying that if he wanted to do this, he will take responsibility for the consequences, and that even someone at the ninth awakening can be eliminated, and Beihan is insignificant. Yang says, putting Yuan Shan aside, and mentions the commander. Gu tells him to report this within the camp first, keeping this information strictly for the outside world, and to prevent all the eliminated participants from leaving, including Beihan. The elder walks off and says he will head to the Jiangnam headquarters first. They announce that Beihan was eliminated by Jiang, and people are shocked. They ask, Beihan? Is he the grandson of General Yuan Shan? Did they hear that correctly? Ying and Bi defeat a beast together. Ying, upset, wonders if Jiang really defeated Beihan. Bi thinks that another beast is defeated. Wushuang is sitting by the expired beast and hears the announcement, commenting that it's interesting. The commander in charge is preparing something to take. Observing, he notices Gu approaching and asks if he's found some good seeds. Gu uses his forbidden barrier skill, creating a red barrier. They sit down, and the commander says that Gu is being very cautious, to which Gu replies that he wants to ask something. He asks if poison can corrode spiritual power. Duan responds that, theoretically, it's possible, but difficult. He explains that the mist affects entities, and spiritual power is composed of the essence of the soul itself. When it's corroded, the intensity of the toxicity can't be estimated. Gu asks if Duan has ever seen this before, and he answers no, but he knows of a venomous king above the fourth awakening who couldn't do it. Gu asks if there's anyone in the camp who could do this, and if it really could corrode spiritual power, it would be a very powerful weapon. Gu says that no conclusion can be drawn yet, and Duan asks if he's still not going to tell the truth. Gu then asks if Duan said that there's a possibility the poison could have its own consciousness. Duan laughs, asking if he's joking, and how poison could have consciousness unless it isn't poison at all but merely a disguise. Gu is outraged, and asks if it's just a disguise. Duan tells him to wait a moment, as he remembers something. He explains that there seems to be a record in the ruins of a type of insect, a natural calamity type, which can be converted into poisonous mist. He says the miasms of the nine originated from the abyss, and at one point, caused a catastrophe that devastated the world. Gu asks if it's the nine-winged miasms and the ancient catastrophe. Duan asks if he's scared and says that this insect was extinct, so it's impossible for it to exist today. Gu says he explains well and walks off, while Duan complains that he still hasn't shared any potential seeds and is frustrated that Gu didn't explain why he needed this information. The elder reflects on the nine-winged miasms and the natural disaster, realizing why it was so significant. He says that Jiang, with his talent to grow all creatures, is enough to place him at the top of the list, since his power is very strong and has caused him much trouble. He remembers Gang saying he had an incredible seed and, moreover, that he had offended the Xiao family and asked for Jiang's protection in the camp, accepting him as a disciple. He says that Gang asked for protection, but in reality wanted him hidden. Gu adds that he doesn't care if it's a forbidden power, because the sword can both kill and protect people. He returns to the camp and says that since he mentioned taking a disciple, he will protect Jiang. Gu walks and says there's no reason to underestimate a natural disaster, asking Hong to make a trip to the ruins and investigate the natural disaster caused by the miasma. Entering the room, he asks the vice how the entrance test is going. The vice responds that it's almost over, that they're competing for the flags, and only one beast remains. Lise and Liu teamed up to kill one beast. Ying and Bai are working together to kill the second. Wushuang has killed 3 beasts in the area by himself and now seems to be heading toward Jiang. Gu asks about Jiang, and the vice replies that he has killed 2 beasts and they've just placed the 9th beast near him. Jiang watches the beast approaching and thinks it's perfect. Another one is coming. With poison in hand, he thinks it's time for them to feast. Attacking the monster with the poison, he tells them to eat as much as they want. Little Nine devours it, and her devouring value increases. The beast is defeated, and Little Nine levels up. Jiang wonders if Little Nine leveled up. Suddenly, an attack approaches, and Jiang becomes confused. Mu says it's a stealth attack, and Luo uses the earth shield. He tells them to wait and wonders if this punch is from Wushuang. Then, the shield is broken. The girls fly away, spitting liquid from their mouths, and Jiang gets into an attack stance. Jiang and Wushuang engage in a battle, but the punch pulls back. Wushuang asks if this punch can swallow his fist. He walks and says that Jiang is worthy of being the poisonous demon the geniuses speak of. Jiang says that Wushuang is worthy of being the third most talented person in Daxia because that attack was very powerful. Jiang asks if he's there to steal the beast. Wushuang laughs and says that the beast has been poisoned to the point that it only has meat left, so there's nothing to steal. Jiang asks what he wants. Wushuang says not to misunderstand him. He's just curious and wants to get to know him. The powerful aura behind Jiang flares up, and he says that Wushuang said he would face him, and asks if he's willing to bet his life on it. Wushuang says exactly, and says that at least Jiang should bet his life too. Jiang then calls him and throws poison at him. He attacks him with a punch. Wushuang uses his ability to create a 1,000-meter wall, causing a massive attack. Jiang watches, alarmed, and is pushed back. Jiang tries to hold his ground and says that his punches are very strong and fast, while his poison is spreading slowly. Little Nine, frightened, calls out to him. He wipes the liquid from his mouth and tells Little Nine that if she devours something at this level, she might level up a lot. Little Nine says she can't defeat him, but she's willing to die for him, thinking that it's the first time she's seen herself afraid and wondering about self-destruction. Jiang, exhausted, says that if she can't win, she should hide. She responds that she will obey him and thinks she can't let him die, or it will be the end for her too. Wushuang approaches and asks if he's already losing strength, saying that Jiang doesn't seem like the person who defeated Beihan. Kneeling, Jiang uses his plant ability, cracking the ground. Wushuang laughs and asks if that's his divine talent, and if he's trying to block their vision, because Beihan also lost like that. They watch on the screen, and the Vice says that Jiang is blocking their vision again. Gu tells the Vice to prepare to save him. The Vice says that, judging by the battle so far, Wushuang will be fine and there's no need to intervene. Gu says he's telling him to save Jiang. Vice asks if the Elder is being unfair. He says that Wushuang is on a higher level than Jiang, thinking that Jiang just wants to protect him because he is his disciple. Jiang raises his hand and tells the insects to leave. The insects retreat, and Wushuang asks if this is his true power, saying that he now understands. Wushuang uses his ability to bring down mountains and seas. Jiang tells the insects to surround him. The insects move in to attack. Wushuang uses mountains on top of mountains again, slamming his fist on the ground and attacking the insects. But the insects remain resilient, and he grows indignant. Jiang continues signaling for the insects to keep attacking, causing a massive explosion. Wushuang emerges from the explosion. Staring intently, he says that he finally understands how Beihan lost. He attacks again, creating a strong wind and cracking the ground. Jiang, head bowed, doesn't know what to do. Crawling on the ground, Jiang thinks this attack is much stronger than the last one, and wonders if this is the power of the descendant. Exhausted, he wonders if he will have to self-destruct the insects he's worked so hard to create. He thinks he has no other choice, causing an explosion and considering 10 self-destructions. The explosion is enormous. Wushuang is hit and retreats. Jiang continues attacking, using his plant power. Wushuang tells him to relax because the battle is over. Jiang stops attacking, confused. Wushuang says he recognizes him as a worthy opponent and hopes to fight him again when he's stronger. Jiang says that he only made him try harder to give his best. Wushuang opens his mouth and says he's sleepy, asking if Jiang can handle the other beast. Jiang asks if he will give him first place. Wushuang replies that it's not his intention. He's just tired and will find a place to sleep. Jiang gets angry and tells Wushuang to stop pretending, saying that if he gets any benefit, he will accept everything. Wushuang thinks to himself that he already knew Jiang was an interesting opponent. Gu, watching everything, says that not using force to humiliate the weak means being a descendant of Wudi, while the commander was poisoned again. Gu says to send the last beast to Jiang and let him win. In a dark, gloomy place, Nia, the first disciple in the ruins, says that the place is so horrible that no one below the 6th rank should enter. Nia flies through, encountering various corpses, and says that for the sake of her junior, she will endure it. She attacks the corpses. Seeing a gravestone, she says that it must be the place where a terrifying aura emanates from, wondering what kind of existence it could be. As she approaches, the gravestone reads Time of the Insects, and she wonders if it's a ruin like a database. Nia activates her divine sense, observes, and says that this data is about rare and ancient insects. Using her full divine sense for quick reading, Nia finds an image of an insect and says she found it. Reading, she sees that it's an ancient calamity-level creature that caused a great catastrophe and is now extinct. She also finds several characteristics of the insect. She complains, saying that her junior really has a forbidden being and that she must tell the master right away. At the camp, The beast is defeated. Jiang watches it die and thinks that after devouring 4 beasts, plus Wang, the devouring value has increased, and once he receives the reward, he will be able to achieve the second awakening. Jiang tells the girls that he will give each of them a flag so they can make it into the top 10 at least. They are happy and thank him. Meanwhile, Ying and Bi finish defeating the beast. Ying says that it finally died, and Bi says that Wushuang should take first place. The test ends, and those with advancement flags should head to the square immediately, while the eliminated must leave the camp within 3 minutes. The announcement is repeated. Jiang hears this and wonders if it's over, meaning the 10 beasts have been killed. Jiang thinks even the leftovers are leftovers and tells the insects to eat, that they can look for other beasts to devour, and to avoid people as much as possible. Beihan is lying on the stretcher, missing an arm, and thinks that he can finally leave this place. When he returns to the Xiao family, he will see how his grandfather deals with Jiang. On stage, the elder says that all those who advanced should follow him to the restricted area for the trial. People are confused, as he hadn't mentioned this before. Even though it's a place with natural resources, it's extremely dangerous. Gu asks what they are afraid of. Gu strikes the ground with his sword and thinks, according to the investigation, Jiang has the miasma of 9 wings, then says, celestial blade. He walks and thinks that dawn is almost here, and they should arrive soon. Gu uses his abilities, and the people watching are surprised. Gu lifts a stone without touching it and says that he must prepare in advance to do this in time. He raises his arm and says, flying sword. Taking the sword, he says that he's heading to the forbidden area in Jiangnan. The people walk and are amazed, saying that only the Blade King can do this, and that it is the power of the first king of Daxia. Jiang asks what the girls know about the Forbidden Zone. Luo says she doesn't know, and Mu says that she only heard her grandfather talk about it. She explains that what makes the place horrible is not the imminent danger, but the distortion of time and space, with various fragments that constantly move in chaotic ways. Jiang asks about the time inside the zone. Mu responds that it must also be different from the outside world. Luo says that, 100 years ago, an ordinary person went there with the intention of taking risks and became a 6th-rank king. According to that person, 200 years passed inside, but outside it was only 2 hours. Jiang says, in other words, and asks if it's all random. Luo tells him not to worry, as the elder will lead them, and he should know the safe path. He replies that he hopes she's right. Jiang thinks that Yunmengzi is a dangerous place, but also a good one, and it seems that the senior did this for him. Gu thinks that since Hong Yao can detect the miasma of 9 wings, Yuan Shan will discover it as well. He thinks that when this happens, everyone in Daxia won't be able to hide it, and he hopes to gain enough time to find allies. People observe and wonder if he really moved the entire camp, and that place holds the next generation of Jiangnan. Commander Duan flies in and calls Gu crazy, asking if he's asking people to risk their lives with him. Gu sends him a message, saying that he moved the children to the restricted area, and they will return soon, and that he will take responsibility for the consequences. People notice that Duan has arrived, and he approaches, thinking that Gu is so cool but left him with a mess. The parents of the geniuses are worried and say they can't catch up to them. Duan tells them to stop and asks why they're desperate, saying that they promised to return on the day of the genius list selection after the trial. He wonders if it's because of the invincible seed, but questions if it was necessary for Gu to go to the restricted area this way, or if he's trying to hide or escape. He continues thinking about what he had said. The commander recalls Gu's words and wonders if it's the miasma of 9 wings. Gu sends a message to Gang saying that Jiang has some taboo, so he's taking him to the restricted area until things calm down, and that Gang should find allies. Gang is startled. Sitting on the couch, he thinks that not only is he messing with the Xiao family, but there's also the taboo. He says it will be difficult. Jin advises him, saying that his father will help too. Jin says that now they have Gu, the senior sister, his father, and Duan, and with 4 powerful people, they can handle anything. Gang walks and says that the senior sister has already gone to meet the master, and he will visit the Luo family and the seal, and that it doesn't matter if he has to lie, he'll get allies for Jiang. He looks back and says that if things get worse, he'll use the same energy he used when he went to the Xiao family and give it his all. Jin says she hasn't seen him this excited in years. In a forest, he presents the flying sword beneath the stone, and a voice asks what they should do when they return. Naya says that the miasma of 9 wings from her junior brother is so cool, and she wishes she had one too. Gu calls her a silly girl and asks if she can't be serious just once. Naya says that Daxia has 0 tolerance for taboos and asks if Gu can defeat General Yuan Shan with a single strike. Gu slaps her and tells her to pay attention to what she says. She complains of pain and says that she wasted all his reputation and ended up accepting many strange disciples like herself. Naya asks why he's so focused on protecting Jiang. He asks why. Gu says that when he accepted her as a disciple, it was only because she wore a red outfit, and Ji had mistaken him for a sex worker when he first entered the club. Back then, when the heir of the Xiao family tried to force Tang to marry, Gang intervened. He was willing to give his life to protect him, and he only follows his heart. He continues, saying that now Jiang is the same. When he met him, he knew they would get along, and if he's his disciple, why wouldn't he protect him? Naya laughs and says that he's the best master in the world, even acting all cold, and says there's only one way to protect Jiang. She mentions one of the three incredible figures of Daxia, the supreme military commander, Wushuang's grandfather, the martial god Xuanji, while in Ponjun, a battlefield of numerous races. She presents a giant fist attack. Xuanji strikes the ground with his fist, raising people without touching them. Soon after, he walks and asks if various races dare to invade Great Daxia, telling them to eliminate them without hesitation. Xuanji says that after this battle, they will calm down for a while, and they should guard the entrance to the cave. The servants agree. Wondering why Wushuang isn't at the camp and why he's contacting him now, the elder arrives at the scene, approaching him. Xuanji asks if he contacted him through Wushuang and if he caused any trouble. Gu replies no and says he just wants to make a deal with him. Gu explains that he has a new disciple, but the disciple has the miasma of 9 wings, and he wants to protect him. Xuanji is indignant and says that Daxia always thought it better to kill anyone who leaves a taboo unaddressed, asking if he thinks the martial god is all-powerful. Gu asks if it's not true, and Xuanji tells him to speak the conditions. He asks if Gu has heard of the Taisu Palace, saying it's the only place that knows the way in Daxia and can take Wushuang and give him a blessing. Xuanji thinks that if his grandson can go to the legendary treasure land, his cultivation will make great progress. He says he can agree with Gu's decision, but his condition is that Jiang must not use the taboo in the camp and will be sent to the battlefield to defend himself alone. Gu tries to say something, but Xuanji tells him that if he really wants to save him, he has no other choice. Gu thinks that sending him to the battlefield is even better than being killed by General Xiao and others when they return. Xuanji thinks that the taboo is impossible to reach the level of a natural disaster, that Daxia's generation has created other divine rank talents, and Jiang is the fourth, and belongs to the creation class. He continues thinking that, without using his taboo, Jiang wouldn't be able to surpass Wushuang, so there's no way he would end up in first place. Xuanji thinks that even by some miracle, Jiang would cause problems. As a martial god, he could expel any evil spirit from the world in seconds. Elsewhere, he still presents the stone under the stone. Jiang asks if they've entered Yunmengze, and if she remembers the way. Mu says that, in these dimensional fragment exchanges, remembering the way is impossible. Mu says that Gu relies on the aura to lead the way, and that Yunmengze has 10 layers, and the deeper they go, the easier it is to get lost. They sit on the ground, and Jiang says that since they can't remember the way, they should meditate with their eyes and minds and let their spiritual senses guide them. Jiang thinks that there's no wind in his mind, and the ancestral tree is swaying. He wonders if it's showing him the way. He also wonders if there's something ahead that the tree is desperately wanting. He asks if every ancestral tree of all creatures has fruits. Suddenly, a notification arrives saying that he obtained a functional fruit, and he must perform the copy within 3 hours, or the card will expire. Jiang thinks that in the camp, everyone is an incredible prodigy, and he wonders if he can take whatever he wants. He thinks that the most valuable targets are Wushuang, Bai, and Ying. Jiang still thinks that the copied ability is random, and it could end up being some useless skill. He also wonders if it's difficult to choose within just 3 hours, and if he should take the risk. Gu says they'll reach the 6th call, and that ahead lies the Taisu Palace, the place he is taking them, and tells them to prepare. Jiang thinks it's right, and wonders about the old man. He remembers him saying, "I only knew one move, and I'd even accept you as a disciple." So he decides to copy it, and consider it an early lesson. At the Taisu Palace, the geniuses talk about how, in the past, a legendary figure became a seal king there, and one of the 3 invincible figures reached enlightenment there. There are 3 tests in the Taisu Palace. There are 1008 steps, and each time they pass a step, they have the chance to receive a celestial treasure. The second is the monument, which only the great dreamer has found, and as for the third, it's inside the palace, but no one has ever entered. Gu says these stages will be the final tests, and for the 150 participants, the top 10 will be based on the number of stages completed, and they'll enter the final of the 8 war zones. The test begins, and the geniuses start running. Jiang pulls Luo and asks what the target is, saying the Taisu palace won't escape. Watching Ying and Bai sitting on the grass, he says they're not in a hurry and are adjusting their status. They sit on the grass, and Luo agrees with him, while Mu says that everyone can reach a place in Taisu and should adjust their condition to the limit before climbing. Gu observes and says they remain calm, even at times like this, and adds that it's not bad. Jiang thinks he should use the excuse to prepare and replicate the Heavenly Divider sword first, to avoid the card expiring, and the copy card notification arrives. He thinks yes, and that he should make the copy. Jiang hopes for good luck and doesn't mind if it doesn't improve. Another notification arrives for the Heavenly Divider skill, and he thinks the old man was honest with him. He's confused and asks what's going on, as the copy process is loading. Suddenly, an overwhelming energy appears. Jiang watches, wondering if the senior is practicing sword handling. With the sword in hand, he wonders if it's him who is training. He practices one attack and thinks, 10 years. Another attack thinking, 20 more years. Finally, 40 years, presenting an older version with a beard. Jiang thinks about the Heavenly Divider sword, and displays the sword in his hand with an aura, striking the stones and breaking them. Jiang thinks the man shapes himself based on the earth, and the earth shapes itself based on the sky, flying several stones and presenting a younger Gu. The notification arrives again, congratulating him on the skill. Then, Jiang is seen sitting, thinking that he not only copied the skill, but also divided the Heavenly Divider sword into 4 different forms. Naya watches and says that everyone else has gone up, and Jiang is the only one still there, asking what's wrong with him. Gu says it's strange because adjusting their status shouldn't take this long. Naya, confused, asks if his sword heart is resonating. The master observes in shock. Gu replies that it's not just her sword, even the sword heart is resonating. Naya asks if he succeeded, as he was a rare genius who always tried to destroy the Heavenly Divider sword, and his cultivation had been stuck at the master level for years. Gu says it's possible, and he thinks Jiang's aura feels familiar, wondering if it's an illusion created by the Taisu palace. Naya tells him to look, as Jiang is walking toward it. She gets nervous, wondering how many steps he can climb, as she only managed 301 steps this year. Then, she presents the data of how many steps some geniuses have achieved. The geniuses say the first steps are illusions, and it gets even harder with gravity. They watch Jiang climbing and say he's going to be another Wushuang. Jiang thinks the first test is an illusion, and with his current mental strength, it shouldn't be a problem. Then he gets startled. He faces Beihan's grandfather, who asks how dare he touch his grandson, saying today will be his end. They begin to fight. Jiang releases his insects, but they can't even block. Then, Gang and the students appear, saying they'll block and telling him to run. Yuanshan says not to get in his way, and moves toward Jiang, saying he will eliminate him without mercy. Liquid drips down Jiang's face as he shouts, "No!" Still on the first step, the tear slides down his face. Nea watches and asks if he's stuck there, while Gu says that everyone in the camp was endowed with talents and rare treasures from a young age. But Jiang is different. In Jiang's mind, Yuanshan is holding a sword, and he's asking to be eliminated, as everyone has been executed. Kneeling, he stares intently. Yuanshan disappears, and Jiang wonders if it's an illusion, looking again and asking if it's the tree of all creatures. On the step, he questions if he's fallen into this illusion, and says the others were killed, and instead of fighting, he preferred to die. He gets angry at this. Stepping on the next step, he calls the illusion a joke and tells the tree lady he's going to ruin the fun. More notifications arrive, telling him he's received a fragment of starry desire, and giving instructions on how it can be used. He climbs another step. Jiang wonders about the fragment, since one is worth tens of thousands in the market, and considers selling it, thinking it will be enough to feed the insects. With his foot on another step, he asks why no illusion attacked him on the second step. Jiang encounters a tree. Wondering if the tree of all creatures blocked the illusion completely, he laughs and says it's an amazing tree. People watch him climbing the steps and comment on how, on the first step, he was crying, and now, on the second, he's laughing. They ask if he won't give up on the second step. Jiang thinks that next, he'll show them what it means to crush everything, but notices the master watching and wonders if he should act humbly. He thinks that Wushuang is already on the 300th step, and he should at least cross it first. Naya says Jiang is stuck on the second step now, and it looks like he won't even finish the 10th step. Gu tells her to wait and watch. Jiang easily climbs the steps, saying he'll sing his way to the top of the palace. People watch, surprised, as he's singing and jumping up to the 100th step. Jiang passes Luo and Mu, saying this song is for his sister, who will confidentially reach the 300th step. Mu says the master is singing to encourage her, and even if it risks his life, she'll reach the 300th step. Luo says he's amazing, but the song is embarrassing. Naya says his evaluation is malfunctioning, as he's already passed 200 steps and isn't slowing down. Gu says he's never seen anything like it. People watch, wondering how he's moving so quickly, and if he's actually climbing the steps, or if they're stuck in an illusion. Jiang continues climbing and comes face to face with Wushuang, Ying, and Bai, wondering why they stopped at the 299th step. Gu says all steps after the 300th are a massive challenge. Naya agrees and says they must give their best, and whoever crosses that obstacle first will lead. The three watch Jiang. Wushuang says he knew Jiang wouldn't disappoint him, and Ying comments on how quickly he's arrived. Wushuang says he'll lead now. Jiang observes and wonders if his divine rank resonates with Wushuang's, questioning whether he also has a divine rank, and if those chains are hiding his strength. The chains break. Wushuang climbs another step. A purple aura ignites. Bai says the purple aura is a reward for reaching the 300th step, and Ying remarks it's to be expected from Wushuang. Wushuang says the 300 steps are considered an extreme test, and crossing them brings great fortune, but this step is testing the strength of the individual's soul. He tells Jiang that he hasn't had experiences like them, so his creation is flawed, and advises him to proceed steadily and not rush. Jiang then climbs another step, impressing the three. Jiang asks if Wushuang is mocking him, wondering if it was supposed to be difficult. A notification arrives congratulating him, and Jiang thinks the reward, the origin crystal, is ridiculous, even if he can't use his insects. Jiang thinks it's much better than the epic equipment he had promised, and the little nine asks him to keep climbing because they want to eat. Jiang wonders if they're referring to eating the monument right there. She responds, yes. Climbing another step, an incredible aura presents itself. Climbing faster and faster, Jiang says to wait, as even though they're hungry, there's no need to draw on their strength. The three watch him climb, utterly shocked. Wushuang becomes anxious and yells, no! Using all his strength, he climbs the steps quickly, saying Jiang can't surpass him. Bai watches and asks what's happening, noticing it's Wushuang's war god body, and asking if he's mastered it. Bai gets irritated that they're climbing so fast and calls them annoying, saying they deserve to be eliminated. He then uses his ability, Blood of Gods and Demons, and says to stain the sky. Climbing quickly as well, Ying observes and asks if they're crazy, while two girls watch and ask if Ying is weird too. Ying asks what they're talking about, saying she's just an assassin and doesn't compare to them. They reply that they're glad, because they thought they were the only weak ones. A beast flies up the steps. The two girls hug each other and begin to cry, saying the people out there only lie, with one of them adding that the four of them are all incomparable prodigies. Naya watches and asks what's going on, as Wushuang has grown 8 arms, Bai has gone mad, and Ying has stopped pretending. She says Jiang has really made everyone lose their minds. Naya is surprised that, in the blink of an eye, Jiang is about to reach the top, and wonders if he'll be the second person in history to achieve this. He keeps climbing. Jiang reaches the top and says he has succeeded. Naya watches and asks what he's doing. Jiang releases his insects and tells them to take whatever they want. They start looking for food. Naya asks if that's not the miasmatic fog, saying Jiang released everything and covered the Taisu stele, asking what he's plotting. Observing, she sees only purple aura, and wonders where the Taisu stele has gone. Gu watches and wonders if Jiang absorbed the Taisu stele and how he managed to do it. Wushuang watches, speechless. Wushuang admits defeat this time, but says he'll give his best in the battle of the chosen ones. He then descends the steps, and Bai says that since even Wushuang gave up, they should too. Ying agrees, saying that going further would only harm their essence. Mu is impressed and says Jiang is really incredible, but at least they completed their mission. The data on the steps reached is displayed. Gu says that if it weren't for Jiang, they wouldn't have gotten so far. Nia comments that this generation is much more powerful. Naya watches Jiang and says everyone is descending, so why is he standing still, with no reaction? More notifications arrive, showing that Little Nine has leveled up. Jiang wonders if she'll take the stele to the insect nests. Jiang thinks that the absorption rate of the larvae is rising quickly, and soon they'll be able to reproduce the 3rd generation, wondering if the stele and the miasma are connected. He thinks that since the stele came from the abyss, and Little Nine is the ruler of the abyss, it's not unexpected. Jiang observes the purple aura, and wonders if the stele is manifesting. Another notification arrives, saying he's been recognized as the solemn king of the Taisu realm. He thinks that now he can teleport whenever he wants and no one can enter. Jiang jumps, thinking there are too many people watching right now, so he'll check it later. Still at the top, he's grabbed by the arm by Gu and Naya, and the elder tells him to follow him now. People watch and say that the instructors have kidnapped Jiang, wondering if it's related to the Taisu stele and saying, serves him right, who told him to be so arrogant? Between the mountains, Gu says that the elder could only meditate on the Taisu stele and asks how he used the 9-winged miasma to absorb the stele. Jiang wonders if he knows about the miasmas, and if he brought him there to kill him. Gu asks if Jiang thought he could fool them with the poisonous mist, and Naya says his scared face is cute. Jiang thinks about telling the truth. Jiang says the stele came from the abyss, sharing the same origin, and one could say the stele belonged to the miasma. Gu says that he should already know about Xiao's stance on taboos, and now Jiang only has 2 options. Gu explains that Jiang either lives in a swamp, exiled for the rest of his life, or he comes with him and fights for his life. Many will want him dead, even those at the general level. Jiang thinks that it wasn't a coincidence earlier, as the old master went to the swamp to give him an exit and wonders about the reason, since they've only met once. Naya asks what Jiang is thinking, as Gu asked him a question and he needs to respond. Jiang says that although there's a taboo, he's only killed bad people, and his conscience is clear, so he questions why he should run away. Gu laughs and says it's as expected of his disciple, and that Jiganga wasn't as good as him in the past. Naya asks what Uncle Ji has to do with this, and reminds him that she is superior, and Uncle Ji as well, and that's how things work. Naya explains that in the past, Gang was almost killed by General Xiao when he went to steal Aunt Tang. Jiang asks if Gang also had a grudge with the Xiao family. Gu says it doesn't matter anymore, and as long as their will is firm as master and disciple, they'll face them together, and the sword in his hand will pave the way for Jiang. Jiang calls out for his master. He kneels on the ground and asks him to accept his eternal gratitude as a disciple. In Jiangnan, various kings are seated in the supreme war zone. Commander Xinghai says that with the 12 kings gathered, except for Gu and Naya, he will get straight to the point. He explains that the poisonous fog was, indeed, miasma, and according to the laws, anyone who awakens or manipulates a taboo object is subject to death. Heinian says that it's almost impossible for Jiang to grow nowadays, as long as he remains under supervision, and if the miasma is discovered, they can just destroy it and won't need to kill him. Wanchuan agrees with Heinian, saying that the laws were issued 500 years ago, when Xiao was weak, and today, the strongest can handle these issues. Wanchuan says they need to know who has the most connections with Jiang, and they comment that Heinian's granddaughter has gotten very close to him. Suddenly, an attack occurs. An enraged general approaches and says to kill Jiang as soon as they see him, and anyone who dares to defend him should ask their sword first. Duan is surprised to see the general and thinks of Gu, imagining that if it weren't for his entrance right now, he could have helped more, still thinking that he hopes they don't blindly protect Jiang and end up sinking with him. Duan goes to the mountains and says that the general released the celestial punishment team, and they are hiding in the mountains. Gang says that Jiang and the others will return soon. Gang says that if the battle happens, Tang and he will draw their swords. Dean says that he helped them back then, and won't do any differently now. Chu asks what will be lacking in a situation like this. Yun says they need a babysitter. Jin says to relax, as they're all family. Jin looks up and asks if it's Jiang and the others approaching. In the various mountains, a voice says the target has been identified. The general points and orders the celestial punishment team to attack. They respond affirmatively, preparing the beasts. The sword is still high in the air, along with the stone. Naya brings up the earlier dispute with Gang. Gu tells her to pretend to be diplomatic before they start fighting, or they'll think the lineage is full of troglodytes. They walk, and Naya says that it's him who is anxious for the battle, and like master, like disciple. Looking back, she asks if Jiang doesn't agree. Another notification arrives about the reproduction. Jiang says that he got the 3rd generation before the battle, as it's 5 million. Naya touches Jiang's shoulder, and says that even if they have troops, he shouldn't worry, as she and the master are there. Jiang says he's not afraid, and saw Uncle Ji and the others in the mountains, and he wants to deliver some gifts first. She tells him to go, and they will pass by later. So Jiang leaves and heads toward them. Wushuang watches and thinks that he hopes Grandma can handle it. Bai thinks that it's a taboo, and Ying thinks that Jiang is the 2nd person in history to complete the steps. Mu observes Jiang and wonders if the master will help him. Luo says there's no use in worrying now, they just need to stay out of the way. Jiang approaches Gang and says that he couldn't bring the epic equipment, but thinks that what he has will be useful. Gang asks if it's an origin crystal and thinks this is great. Jiang hands over a ribbon to Jin, a bow to Duan, a golden-grade weapon to Chu, and a platinum-grade set to Yun. A voice announces Jiang's name. The general says it seems like Jiang is coming, and orders the team to wait. Duan approaches and tells the general to hold on, as there are 100 prodigies in the field alongside Gu, and there can't be any setbacks. The general says that if Gu knows what's coming, he'll kill him first. Duan tells Gu to hand over Jiang and not make a mistake, thinking that both Gu and the general are important to him, and if they fight, Jiangnan will suffer great losses. Gu asks what mistake, saying that he brought 150 prodigies and will take them to the Taisu hall. The families of the geniuses are pleased to hear this, as the place is known for miracles, and with such a great favor, they must offer something in return. Duan says that these 150 prodigies have stood out after this, and Jiangnan's strength will only grow, calling it an excellent contribution. Gu speaks to the group. The general hides in the sea and observes the gathered geniuses. The general says that according to the laws, Jiang must die, and that Gu is covering for him, putting the prodigy field at risk. Gu observes and says that walking on the sea is the general's power, and they must remain neutral. Gu tells Jiang to ascend, and for Hong to take care of the prodigy field. She responds affirmatively. With a barrier surrounding Gang and the group, Jiang flies and tells them to stay there. Gang asks when he activated it. Jiang responds that if he can't make it, then Gang should save him. The elder asks for his sword to be taken. The general asks if Gu is really going to draw his sword against him. Gu says he knows a dozen forbidden water spells, while the general only has his sword. Duan creates an ice barrier between the two and tells them to wait, as starting a fight here will destroy the Jiangnan base. Beihan appears and asks if he and Jiang can settle this with their hands. With a black arm replacing the one that was ripped off, he says that in the past, Jiang ripped his arm off, and today he'll finish him off. Duan says it's better to let them settle this themselves, and that the older generation shouldn't interfere. Jiang asks if it's really a mano, since Beihan isn't that kind of good guy, and wonders what his trick will be. Beihan says the condition is that Jiang can't use the nine-winged miasma. The general laughs and says it's as expected of his grandson, and that, for the sake of Jiangnan, no one has objections. Gu curses and says that just because Beihan is in a morally elevated position, it doesn't mean he can do whatever he wants. Gu tries to charge at Xiao, but Jiang holds him back and tells him to calm down, warning him not to make people think they are a bunch of troglodytes. Jiang says he can't use the taboo, but he'll find a way to defeat him. Gu asks how he plans to do that. Jiang asks if he wasn't going to teach the move that splits the heavens, so he should teach it now. Nia asks what kind of joke that is, saying it took her 10 years to learn it, and Ji still only knows the basics. Beihan asks if Jiang expects to wait 10 years and tells him to go ahead and dream. Jiang says it won't be necessary, and asks Beihan to wait for 5 minutes. Gu, furious, asks what Beihan said, and if he's calling the technique half-baked. Beihan calls him an idiot. Jiang touches the sword. Jiang asks the master to teach him, touching the sword. Gu wonders if the sword is resonating, thinking that it was Jiang who made it resonate in the Taisu hall. Jiang whispers in the master's ear. Gu says it's fine, and he'll teach it now. Duan says that since it's a life-and-death duel, he'll construct a battle arena here, and that no one can interfere in the fight between the two. Beihan says that Jiang should better learn it quickly, since the last time he used the taboo, and now he'll make sure everyone watches him be eliminated. Meanwhile, inside the barrier, Gang tells Jiang not to fight him and feels guilty. Jin tells him to calm down, as the master doesn't make reckless decisions. Gu, with the sword in hand, tells Jiang to remember that the heaven-splitting sword technique is a technique of willpower, to understand himself and act without hesitation, and asks him to observe carefully. The elder uses the heaven-splitting sword, sending the stone flying far away. The general asks if that was meant to hit him, and if Gu really thinks he'll defeat him with that. Duan calls Gu an idiot, saying he's breaking the rules by making it a mano. Gu tells him to wait, as the move wasn't aimed at the general. The move is launched and ends up hitting a monster, ripping its tail off. The dragon says he will return to eliminate Jiang. Duan comments that it was the dragon hiding, and that everyone was focused on the duel, but only he noticed. With the sword on his back, Gu says that the dragon came after the miasma, and based on his cultivation level, he's at the mid-8th awakening stage. The general thinks that the old Gu really has power. Gu asks if Jiang enjoyed seeing him use the technique for the first time. Jiang says it was amazing, and Gu asks if he learned it. Jiang uses his plant ability and asks for Gang's sword. Gang hands it over, and Jiang grabs it with the plant. Gu asks why Jiang isn't using his own sword and why he took this one. Jiang replies that Gu will understand soon. Jiang steps back and tells him to just wait, and when he unsheathes the sword, it will look impressive. Naya asks what Jiang is doing, and if Gu is sending him to his death. She says she'll pull him out of there now, but notices she can't move. Gu says that in this life-or-death arena, only the two of them can enter, and that Wushuang's grandfather has arrived but is hiding for now. Naya wonders, and realizes that just his presence immobilizes the generals, so this is the power of invisibility. Gu says Wushuang's grandfather wants to control the situation, and Naya asks if he's willing to sacrifice Jiang. The elder asks who said he's going to sacrifice Jiang, as he just finished teaching him the technique. In the arena, Beihan asks if they think this technique is half-baked, something that can be learned by just watching once. Jiang, holding the sword, replies that if it's half-baked, he doesn't know, but Beihan will find out soon. Beihan says he's curious to see how Jiang will fight without the miasma. Bai, observing, asks who Wushuang thinks will win. Wushuang replies that if Jiang uses the miasma, not only Beihan, but even he will lose. Bai says that wasn't the question, and Wushuang says that Jiang will surely die. He adds that Beihan has rebuilt his martial heart and is stronger than before, and that the sword in Beihan's hand is on the list of Jia's great divine swords. In the arena, Beihan asks if Jiang is going to come or if he'll have to strike first, claiming it will be an honor to see his sword broken. Jiang tells him to stop talking. Jiang tells the master to watch his sword. He raises the sword, and it emits a purple aura. He asks the master to correct him if he's wrong, using the heaven-splitting sword technique, the sword of humanity, and transmitting a terrifying aura. The spectators cover their eyes, saying it hurts. Naya tells those with weak spirits to close their eyes. Gu is surprised, thinking that Jiang really learned it. Beihan, thinking that although the technique only affects the soul, and with its consequence, moves his sword. He asks if this is the heaven-splitting sword, as it still lacks mastery, and asks if it only attacks the soul, wondering if Jiang doesn't know that the Xiao family is known for their strong souls. Beihan raises his sword and says to let the moon and stars fill the void. Using the lunar star strike, Jiang waits for the attack. Jiang positions himself and says the first form is called the Sword of Humanity, and now the second form, it doesn't attack the soul but goes straight for the target's physical form. Using the Earth Sword Strike, Beihan's mouth oozes liquid, and he asks how that's possible. Jiang continues attacking. Dean says the arena is about to explode, wondering how a second awakening cultivator could do something like this. He tells them to reinforce the ice barrier. He thinks they have to block it, or they'll all die, and Beihan continues blocking Jiang's attack, as it's incredibly powerful. Beihan, holding the attack, tells them to look northwest and contemplate the clouds, casting a forbidden spell using supreme arcane art. The swords of the spectators go out of control, and they ask what kind of spell that is. Divine weapons, sword souls, and myriad swords return to their origin. All the swords of the spectators head toward Jiang to attack him. Dean asks if these two idiots have gone mad, and tells them to call other ice cultivators to reinforce the barrier. Beihan laughs and says Jiang has lost, claiming that without the taboo, he's nothing. He says Jiang will be torn apart by the forbidden spell, and Jiang asks if Beihan is underestimating him. Jiang says he has a plan B, using the heaven-splitting sword and the karma cut, causing an explosion and emitting a yellow light. Beihan, shocked, says that this is impossible, as he has exploded along with the blast. The general calls for Beihan. Gang says that the sword of humanity, the sword of the earth, and the sword of the heavens were the dreams left unfinished for all these years. Naya says that, in just 5 minutes, Jiang finished the heaven-splitting sword, and Gu remarks that, although the energy isn't enough, he truly learned it, and even improved upon it. Wushuang and Bai Ying are surprised by Jiang's strength. Luo and Mu are happy that he won. Xuanji, hidden, was planning against Jiang but will let him live this time. Ling Chu says that even if Jiang didn't act, Yuan Shan wouldn't let this go. Beihan's grandfather says his grandson was eliminated in a horrible way and wants revenge. Ling Chu says that Xuanji must know the rules, as every bet has consequences. The general becomes thoughtful. Jiang approaches, saying he's earned a 4th cut. Gu, desperate, begs him to stop, and Naya asks if Jiang is drawing his sword toward the general. Xuanji watches from a distance and says that Jiang is provoking a tiger. The general, emboldened, asks how dare he draw his sword against him. Jiang continues his attack and uses the Great Path Strike, releasing a giant yellow light. He observes the attack. Time is a blade, black and white, impermanent. The 3 who are watching say it's a very strong strike. The general, emboldened, says that not even his master disturbs him, and yet he dares challenge him. With a flick of his finger, he creates a giant wave, but then he observes and becomes scared. Various insects approach him, and he asks, "Is it the 9 miasma wing?" Jiang asks if he thought he really didn't know the strike would defeat him, and that it was merely a distraction. The general looks on, enraged. Jiang tells the insects to explode, causing a massive explosion. However, the explosion moves away, and the general says it wasn't enough. Jiang keeps creating explosions, and Xiao asks for more. Duan yells for everyone to run. The general says Jiang must be eliminated. He then uses his water curse power and liquid explosion. Jiang, inside a circle, wonders if this is a forbidden spell. He observes that his whole body is leaking liquid, and Xiao is controlling him. He is terrified as he watches himself. The general continues his attack, and Jiang's face leaks a lot of liquid. Gang, inside the barrier, becomes desperate when he sees Jiang in this state. Naya and Gu call out for Jiang. Luo and Mu also call out and rush to him, but they are interrupted by a rope that binds them and pulls them to the ground. Two men drag them down, and they get angry, calling for their families. Mu begs her grandfather to save Jiang, and Luo asks her father for help. They respond that once someone is hit by a forbidden curse, the only thing left is to wait for them to be eliminated. Gu and Naya beg him to stop. The general says Jiang is about to explode, and the show is coming to an end. Gu and Nia approach him, attacking with strikes. The general uses his kindness as water ability, creating a wave to block their attacks. The elder says he will see how many blades Jiang can withstand. Jiang, kneeling on the ground, places his hand on his head and screams as liquid keeps pouring out of him. They watch, worried. The general says his disciple is at his limit. The general continues attacking, using the forbidden curse. Inside the bubble, Jiang can no longer control himself. He swells up, causing a massive explosion. Tears run down Gang's face as he screams, "No!" Gu and Nia are scared and sad. Luo and Mu can't believe it. The general starts laughing, saying he avenged Beihan. Gu approaches to attack him. Duan watches and says it looks like it will be a fight to the end, and if the senior doesn't stop, Jiangnan will be destroyed in ruins. Gu says she will end this, and Naya can't move. Then, a voice approaches, releasing various insects and a powerful aura, saying it will only be between the two of them. Jiang approaches with a terrifying purple aura. Gu and Naya are outraged. Jiang says he has more tricks up his sleeve than the general thinks. The general wonders how this is possible, as he just witnessed the end. Wu Shuang asks, "Is it resurrection?" And Bai asks, "What's going on?" Luo and Mu shed tears, saying that he was just messing around. Chu and Yun say it's the medal they earned in the secret realm, which defies death. Jiang asks if the general thought he couldn't defeat him, so now it's his turn. Jiang says an army is formed over 1,000 days to be used for a single honor, and releases his various insects. The general watches, wondering how he dares. Xuanji observes and says that he recently changed professions and cultivated so many things so quickly. It seems he underestimated him and made a miscalculation. Jiang says he is putting all his miasma on the line to defeat him. The general uses the forbidden spell but is unable to move because the martial god has trapped him and asks why. Suddenly, Jiang causes a massive explosion with his insects. Mu asks why Xuanji would help Jiang. Luo's father responds that it's 3 blades. He continues explaining who owes 1,000,000, who owes billions and trillions, and the consequences. He says that common taboo bearers would only be eliminated, while taboo bearers who can learn more will be protected. The general is being defeated and says that everyone must be eliminated. In the middle of the explosion, he claims he still has a trump card. The general retreats from the explosion and thinks he will use all the cultivation of his life to advance. He uses the forbidden spell again and emerges from the explosion, moving toward Jiang. Using his power, he says Jiang must be eliminated. Jiang watches, alarmed, wondering if he really broke Xuanji's seal in the explosion. Suddenly, the general is struck by a very powerful blow. Much liquid begins to pour from the general's mouth. A voice says that if he dares to move even a centimeter more, he will be destroyed, and Xiao asks if even the sword god is against him. Jiang attacks again, causing another explosion. The general screams, saying that he is the general of the state. Nearly defeated, he says he is the backbone of Daxia. His body begins to deteriorate. The general asks if Jiang really dares to defeat him. Jiang replies that it's a stupid question. Without his arms and legs, the general begs for his life. Jiang asks what his uncle thinks. The general pleads for salvation from the martial god. Xuanji approaches and asks if he confesses. The general replies that he admits everything. Xuanji says that once the demerits are compensated, all the Xiao family's assets will be confiscated. He says the general will be sent to the front lines of the battlefield and asks if he submits. The general replies yes. Xuanji uses his power and warns that if the general thinks of escaping, his soul will explode and turn to ash. Jiang wonders if just an illusion has such overwhelming pressure and thinks his purpose has been achieved. Xuanji approaches Jiang and asks if, with this verdict, his anger has subsided. Jiang says it has calmed, and Xuanji comments that not only is his talent extraordinary, but he also knows when to advance and when to retreat. Duan approaches and says that the poisonous mist won't last long, and the place will turn into an abyssal pollution. Xuanji says it's a trivial matter and uses purification, making it disappear with just a wave. Jiang thinks this is one of the 9 invincible transformations, a little scared. Xuanji declares the abolition of the taboo rules of Daxia. He then says that as for Jiang, Mu's grandfather approaches and says that Jiang will not harm Daxia and is willing to guarantee it. Tang says he is also willing to guarantee, and the Jiangnan Martial Academy also guarantees and calls Xuanji to join the army. Luo pushes her father to make a declaration. He turns red and yells that he too. Luo feels embarrassed and says he paid the price for his lack of education. Naya says that Xuanji took action and even abolished the taboo rules. Gu says that maybe Jiang had thought of everything. Naya asks if Jiang's mind is too deep and says that even the cave races fear the miasma and that even if it has disappeared, the mother body should still be there. Jiang watches everyone positioning themselves and thinks that it is exactly as he intended, because if you want to play your hand, you must play big. Xuanji says he has heard everyone's positions and asks Jiang to use the forbidden art wisely. He says the grand prodigy competition will be in 10 days, asking the king to add a few extra prizes. He then declares that the use of miasma is prohibited. Jiang wonders if he's doing this for Wushuang, but then thinks no, because he would have simply abolished the miasma, and tells Xuanji he won't use it. He thinks the god is trying to see his potential, so he won't disappoint the world. Xuanji says it's time to deal with the consequences and sends Dream to work. A girl appears and says she's tired. She observes that there are many people and says that this task is a bit too much. Xuanji says that only she should erase the memories of everyone below the level. After that, she can sleep for a year. She says the commander of the night is problematic and suggests handing him over to someone else. Xuanji responds that they should handle immediate matters. Snapping her fingers, numerous butterflies appear. The butterflies approach the people and yawn sleepily, causing them to lie down. Naya asks why Xuanji is doing this, and Gu replies that it's to protect Jiang, explaining that there are also 3 great dungeons, which countless people covet, like the internal tumor of the Church of the Ancient God. Jiang is lying down, and Naya asks why she is sealing his memories too. The dreamer says that this is to strengthen his soul and prevent him from being eliminated from afar, because his cultivation is insufficient and his soul is shallow. But she gets scared and wonders if Jiang is immune to her ability. Approaching him, she thinks he is pretending to be asleep. Jiang thinks he heard a fluctuation, but the primordial tree diverted it, so he pretended. Meanwhile, little Nine is crying because her babies were eliminated. But suddenly her mood changes, and she says she can have more babies, and Jiang thinks that this emotional dance comes out of nowhere. The dreamer approaches him, telling Jiang to stop pretending to be asleep. She gets closer and tells him to hurry and wake up. Jiang sits up and says, "Illusory sister of the moon." She's happy that he called her sister. Xuanji says that she is 800 years old and that she wants to complain but will hold back. She pinches his cheeks and says that now Jiang is the younger brother and she will protect him. If he feels wronged, he can just call for her in his dreams. She throws a ring to him and says that it blocks all espionage, mental, spiritual, and curse explorations. She says she will sleep and that he should remember to call her to play in his dreams. Naya wonders if he only became her brother, because he called her that, and asks if she can still reach her. Xuanji says that if Jiang wins the prodigy competition, it will prove that he truly deserves the support. Jiang thanks her, and Xuanji says that he told everything himself. The families of the girls ask why they don't marry their daughter, and discuss which one he should marry. Naya asks if she still has a chance. Elsewhere, Jiang closes the door and feels relieved, saying that now he can begin the production and evolution of the 2nd level. Evolution given by God, accelerated reproduction, and little Nine tells him to make many babies. He notices a notification saying that he can only enter the heavenly tower alone, with a time limit of 1 day. Jiang says he will sell his equipment, worth 1 million, and exchange it for fierce beast essence. He then comes across a tree with fruits and wonders if it's bearing fruit again. He picks a fruit, which says the acquired skill is red, empty eye. Jiang says that this skill isn't bad, and that he will give it a try. Then, Ying passes by fiddling with her phone. Jiang wonders why she's outside and manages to see all her data, observing what she's doing on her phone. The next day, at the Sky Tower in the magical city's war zone, people comment that Zhuan is a goddess who doesn't tolerate disrespect and that she just entered the tower, but they haven't even reached 1/10 of her level. Jiang wonders if Zhuan is stronger than Wushuang and thinks he needs to challenge her. He approaches and wonders if it's his turn so soon. When he enters, he hears that the strength of the monster will be updated according to the participant's level. Jiang encounters an elf and thinks that on the 1st floor, there are already high-level monsters. Ju wants to eat, and he says these aren't good. He'll give her better ones. He then presents a man sitting and meditating. The first prodigy of Daxia, Zhan. A man waves a paper and says Jiang should take a look. Zhan says there's no need to inform him about Wushuang and Zhuan. Fang responds that it's about Jiang, explaining that he killed Beishan and supposedly survived after drawing his sword against the general. Zhan gets up, takes the paper in his hand, and asks if this is true. A huge dragon. He says it's miasma, 4 Kaitian swords, and he responds that it's interesting. Zhan says he cannot use the miasma, otherwise it would be some kind of motivation. Next, beasts are presented as being attacked, and Zhuan is flying and attacking them with a bow. Her servants say that Wushuang has a history of fighting against a 5-turn beast. Another one replies that Zhuan is on a higher level than him and is comparable to a 5-turn beast. The commander approaches and tells his daughter to rest for a bit. Zhuan is excited to see her father, approaches him, and says that she made a lot of progress today. He asks why she works so hard and says that she should learn from him and lie down whenever she can. She tells him to stop with that. The commander says that, even while lying down, he managed to get information about Jiang. Zhuan looks and says that Jiang is quite strong and mysterious, probably even stronger than Zhan. The commander says that her great-grandfather instructed him to keep an eye on Jiang during the competition. She says she's going to the Celestial Tower, and if she can pass 50 levels, she'll have a chance to win first place. A servant arrives, saying that her record of clearing the first 10 levels of the tower was broken by Jiang. He says Jiang took 37 seconds. She is outraged and says that even those at the same level need more time. The servant adds that there's new news. Jiang also broke the record for the 20 levels. She is furious. She walks angrily and asks if Jiang is provoking her, saying that she's going to fight him to the end. Jiang gains rewards and says that the treasure map fragment is very good and he hopes to collect them all. The 21st level is about to open, and Jiang continues. People are watching in surprise, saying that he managed to surpass Zhuan and asking where he came from. Luo is lying on the bed, fiddling with her phone, when a notification arrives about the rankings for the Celestial Tower. People in the comments are upset with Jiang for surpassing Zhuan. Luo is angry to see them insulting Jiang. She tells Chu to go to the live broadcast because Jiang is being bullied, and if that doesn't work, they'll travel there themselves. People shout, saying that the demon capital can't be taken by Jiangnan, and that Zhuan should defeat him. Zhuan walks to the first level and says that the last time she was there, her strength was lower. She says that now, with her updated equipment and skills, regaining the top ranking is no problem. The notification arrives, saying that 2 minutes later, it's the 10th level, and she cleared it in 59 seconds. She wonders how Jiang did it in 30 seconds, considering she gave her best and couldn't do it. She says she'll go for level 40, as after that level, there are high-level bosses that Jiang won't have an advantage over her. 5 minutes later, she's fighting the beast. She attacks the beast and feels tired, managing to defeat it in 5 minutes and 29 seconds. She says it was faster than last time. Jiang is at level 50, and says that after the insects eat, they'll be able to reproduce for 3 generations. Ju says that she'll finally eat, and Jiang tells the babies to eat. People watch Zhuan coming out of the level. She thinks she just updated to level 50 and wonders if there should be an embrace. She walks and sees that Jiang did it in 4 minutes and 9 seconds and asks if he's actually 1 minute faster than her. With a medicine in hand, she says it amplifies and will drain a bit of her essence. Jiang, still at level 50, says the insects have started to reproduce and wonders why he doesn't see a saber. A notification arrives, and Jiang says that this system is a cheat and that he'll have to run from level 41 to 50 again. Zhuan clears the level again, doing it in 3 minutes and 7 seconds, and says she's finally regained the top. Ju is devouring the insect and says it has so many legs that it's fun. Ju asks if she's not enough. He tells her not to worry, because even with a brother she'll still be the oldest. She's happy, and says she's a brother to intimidate. Then she devours the entire beast. It's presented that, on the 50th floor, Zhuan has reached the top. A boy teases the girls, saying that Zhuan is ahead of Jiang. They reply that before, he was just playing around. Then, it's shown that Jiang completed the 50th floor in 2 minutes and 58 seconds. They're happy. Zhuan watches and wonders why he surpassed her again. She can't accept it and says she has to try again. Shortly after, she says that he did it in even less time. Zhuan watches and is outraged. She kneels on the ground and begins to cry. The commander suddenly appears and asks who made his daughter cry. Zhuan says it was Jiang. He tells her not to worry, as when he gets out, he will give Jiang a lesson. The commander observes and wonders how Jiang managed to obtain the hidden treasure map in the Tower of Babel, specifically the treasure of Julie. He thinks that his family had only been able to acquire maps for 4 treasures after years of searching. Jiang, holding a map of the treasure of the divine Emperor Julie, says that in order to complete the map, a person with the right touch needs to brush it a few more times. Another notification about the treasure map arrives, providing descriptions about it. Jiang has obtained the saber needed for the 2nd class transfer. Soon after, the transfer to the Divine Nutrition Master class is successfully completed. A new type of fruit is added, and Jiang says that he will first draw a mother worm. The class transfer is complete, and he can choose a random mother worm. Jiang has obtained a calamity-level mother worm. Some descriptions about it are presented. Every 10 levels, the worm can reproduce, and every time it advances, the host can unlock a new ability. Jiang, with it on his finger, says that it's at the same level as Ju, but much smaller, an evolution given by God. The worm evolves. Jiang says that it seems calmer and more mature than Ju and will be named Jia. He thinks that he didn't expect it to be male. Jia condenses inside the body and can refine all the essence of life, presenting other characteristics.
If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and like the video. Thank you.